You? What exactly are you? Celestial Maiden Guangwei looked at Xiang Beifei with terror on her face. A human who can create a divine egg with 12-wing potential. And he still didn't seem to be using his full strength. If this human were granted more time to grow, wouldn't his power completely surpass that of the 12-winged Eternal Night Sovereign? Me? Xiang Beifei smiled calmly. I am a human. He paused, then continued to stare at Celestial Maiden Guangwei, and said slowly, a human who stands up for all the oppressed and slaughtered companions of Changpan Valley. Celestial Maiden Guangwei looked at Xiang Beifei's expression, and for some reason, couldn't help but shudder inside. If in the past someone told her that there was a human wanting to stand up for Changpan Valley, she would only sneer and ridicule the human for overestimating their abilities. But when Xiang Beifei created a divine egg right in front of her, she was completely unable to stay calm. That was a divine egg said to be capable of hatching into a 12-winged Eternal Night Demon King. In the knowledge of Celestial Maiden Guangwei, a 12-winged divine egg is nearly impossible to encounter, as in over 3,000 years, the Moon God race hasn't cultivated such a rare divine egg, which means that the current Supreme Divine Lord of the Moon God race is the only 12-winged being in the world. Yet, unexpectedly, Xiang Beifei effortlessly cultivated a divine egg and then blew it up. Is this something humans can do? Celestial Maiden Guangwei couldn't be sure, but the first thought that flashed in her mind was that this is absolutely not human. It might be an existence beyond all races, coming from the Edge Corner airspace. So she was terrified. She usually viewed humans from Changpan Valley as insignificant ants, disdainfully overlooking them, inventing various ways to slaughter them for enjoyment. This was the first time she felt such fear in the presence of someone claiming to be a human cultivator. However, what terrified Celestial Maiden Guangwei even more was yet to come. Xiang Beifei was examining one of the divine eggs, muttering to himself, to blend in, these eggs need to be of higher quality. Then he repeated the process, inputting spiritual power into the Moonprint Goo worm again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Golden light surged into the sky once again, illuminating the entire courtyard, and the splendor in Changpan Valley gathered with purple aura, causing another celestial phenomenon. Another divine egg. Celestial Maiden Guangwei gasped heavily. She inhaled so deeply that she choked herself, but her eyes were wide open. The bloodline-based suppression was absolutely unmistakable to her. A second divine egg. This human actually created a second divine egg with potential to grow into a 12-wing. Celestial Maiden Guangwei's mind was completely blown. She couldn't wrap her head around it. A single supreme divine egg was extraordinary enough. But now there's a second. What is going on with this human? A divine egg wholesaler. You? How could you? Celestial Maiden Guangwei was frightened. How could any meat-winged monster have such luck? To see 2 divine eggs in a row? To witness such a rare thing is worth dying for. Yet what Xiang Beifei said next made her speechless. No, if I produce a divine egg, it might cause too much commotion. I just need to quietly blend in. Forget it. Let's degrade the quality of this egg. Xiang Beifei directly withdrew the spiritual power from the divine egg. Whoosh! The golden light on the divine egg dimmed instantly. The aura of supreme imperial pressure to the meat-winged monster vanished. Under normal conditions, this egg should only remain with 10-wing potential. Ah! You! Spew! Celestial Maiden Guangwei spat out a mouthful of blood, unsure whether she was infuriated or frightened. This human produced a divine egg with 12-wing potential, yet forcibly extracted the spiritual power again, leaving only the 10-wing potential quality. If the high echelon of the Moon God race were to learn of this, they might go insane and even risk everything to hunt Xiang Beifei to the ends of the earth. Xiang Beifei inquired, Hey, if a 10-wing potential egg appeared in Changpan Valley, what would happen? Celestial Maiden Guangwei took several deep breaths, barely restoring her brain's language function, and replied with horror. If there were a 10-wing quality egg, it would definitely alarm all the Heavenly Connection elders to come for identification. Even with 6 wings, many elders would be alerted. No, I need to first familiarize myself with the Moon God Palace. What about four-wing quality? Xiang Beifei was currently unfamiliar with the Moon God Palace. It wouldn't be wise to hastily draw attention from a group of Heavenly Connection elders. Celestial Maiden Guanghui spoke in trepidation. Four-wing, although rare, it wouldn't alarm too many elders. So you can take back an egg with four-wing quality, and it should allow entry into that netherworld cesspool? It's netherworld incubation pool, not netherworld cesspool. Celestial Maiden Guanghui gritted her teeth to correct, then nodded. That's right, for four wings, I qualify to bring it in. But generally for four wings, we would take the parasitized humans along to maximize the protection of the four-wing eggs. For some reason, after saying this, Celestial Maiden Guanghui felt an ominous premonition. All right, let's use the four-wing egg for now. Xiang Beifei snapped his fingers. Whoosh! A portion of spiritual power was extracted from the egg again. The divine egg originally with 12-wing quality was downgraded to 10-wing, and then once again downgraded. Became a four-winged moon god egg. You! The celestial maiden Guanghui only felt the world spinning, her vision darkening, and her heart bleeding. That was a 12-winged god egg. If it could develop normally, it would become an eternal night sovereign level existence, making the moon god race the largest race outside the edge corner airspace, trampling both the demon race and demon tentacle race underfoot. But now, those supreme god eggs have been turned into this mess by Xiang Beifei, as if they were toys. The celestial maiden Guanghui was beginning to question life. 2 god eggs, 1 exploded, and 1 downgraded. This matter shocked the celestial maiden Guanghui greatly. She was now mentally disordered. But these god eggs had no impact on Jiang Shan and his group. Even if that god egg unleashed a powerful pressure just now, it had no effect on them. In their eyes, they were just 2 bird eggs. Beifei, you seem to have scared her silly? Why are those 2 bird eggs having such a big impact on her? Uncle Liang asked in confusion. Xiang Beifei shrugged and said, She hasn't seen much of the world. Ha! Uncle Liang and the others exchanged glances. Beifei. No, Lord Xiang. Can you really create god eggs? Jiang Feng asked cautiously. Why are you suddenly being so formal? Xiang Beifei asked. Jiang Feng awkwardly smiled, bowed and said, It's because we were blind. You can create god eggs that even terrify these Huangquan evil spirits. So your strength and status in Zhuzhou must be extraordinary. You might be a deity of Zhuzhou. If we go to Zhuzhou in the future, we should observe some etiquette. Calling you Beifei seems a bit disrespectful to us. As the clan leader, Jiang Feng was actually very meticulous. From the celestial maiden Guanghui's words earlier, he knew those 2 golden bird eggs were extraordinary, likely something unattainable in 10,000 years. Yet Xiang Beifei somehow managed to create something impossible. This person from Zhuzhou is definitely someone terrifying in terms of both status and power, possibly even the most powerful human on the Zhuzhou continent. He didn't know what the situation was like over in Zhuzhou, so calling Xiang Beifei felt a bit discourteous. But Xiang Beifei smiled and said, It's fine. No need to be formal. You see, Uncle Liang doesn't mind. Uncle Liang realized his blunder, his old face turning a little red. He awkwardly tugged at a few strands of his gray beard and chuckled dryly. I just felt you had a good temper, and you aren't condescending towards us, always friendly. So I didn't think much of it. Lord Xiang, if this old man offended you by talking recklessly, please don't mind. Not at all. Uncle Liang speaks from the heart. Say whatever you like. I'm just someone from Zhuzhou, just a member of the human race like everyone else. No need to be so formal. Calling me Beifei is fine. Xiang Beifei didn't mind these matters. Uncle Liang, Jiang Feng, and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. They had no contact with other humans from the outside world, but this young man in front of them did indeed give them a great sense of security and trust. Originally, after losing the moonprint, the entire Chongpan Valley had ostracized him, and some even said very harsh words. Yet Xiang Beifei didn't hold a grudge. At a critical moment, he even saved the whole Chongpan Valley. But this friendly young man was so decisive in killing the meat-winged monster. Not a hint of mercy, not even a blink of an eye. Such a clear distinction between kindness and enmity gained Uncle Liang and the rest's respect. At this moment, Jiang Shan on the other side asked, Beifei, if the Huangquan evil spirits find an egg with 4-wing potential, don't they usually take a living person back? Do you need to let this egg temporarily parasitize on a human, right? Probably. Let me do it. Jiang Shan firmly extended his wrist. I can be this sacrifice. Xiang Beifei looked at Jiang Shan in surprise. That's not a good place. There are very strong existences there. If you encounter some experts, I might not be able to save you. It's very dangerous. This was something he had originally intended to do himself. I need to try. I want to know if my son is still alive. I hope he's still alive. Besides, 10 years ago we owed that senior. We must make amends this time. Jiang Shan said solemnly. And me, I can also be this sacrifice. 10 years ago we made some mistakes, causing harm to that Lord of Jojo who wanted to save us, and now my conscience feels guilty. Besides, I'm just an old bag of bones. If I can make up for this mistake and rescue that Lord, it would be my duty. Uncle Liang also extended his wrist. Even though he knew the Moon God Palace was a dragon's den, he did not flinch. Jiang Feng also extended his wrist and said, This would be a self-redemption for Changpan Valley. Our power is weak, we can only do these things. Beifei, you can choose me and Jiang Shan as the sacrifices because according to our moonprint cultivation last year, they were originally planning to send a divine envoy to fetch us this year. Both Jiang Shan and Jiang Feng had cultivated their moonprints to full moon last year, and when the divine envoy, who came to brand the newborns of Changpan Valley with the moonprint, saw the moonprints on their wrists, he said they could be taken to the Moon God Palace for further study this year. At that time, whether it was Jiang Shan or Jiang Feng, they were both extremely excited because their lifelong cultivation was to be qualified to go to the Moon God Palace. Now, although they knew the Moon God Palace was a human slaughterhouse, for Xiang Beifei's plan, they were willing to sacrifice themselves. Yes, choose the two of us to go, it's more convincing, Jiang Shan said. Xiang Beifei thought slightly. The moonprints of Jiang Shan and Jiang Feng were indeed almost full moon, and by logic, the divine envoy over there should also recognize them. Taking them over should not raise too much suspicion. He nodded slightly and said, Very well if you're insistent. And me. This old man can also contribute. One more person is more strength. If possible, I'd like to see how these Huangquan evil spirits are wiped out by you. Beifei. Vent some anger. And if an accident happens, at least I'll die for the people of Changpan Valley. Worth it. Uncle Liang said heroically with the long pipe in his mouth after taking a drag. Xiang Beifei hesitated for a moment and then agreed. Creating 3 eggs of 4-wing quality was easy for Xiang Beifei, and he also brought along all the eggs, as they might come in handy later. Xiang Beifei reintegrated the 3 4-wing quality eggs into the bodies of these 3 people. To avoid being detected by the meat-winged monster, this time he did a real implantation, allowing the eggs to regain control of these 3 people. But at the same time, he also gave them maximum protection. Because he didn't know the depth over there, especially with so many heavenly connection realm experts. Xiang Beifei decided not to disguise himself as a human from Changpan Valley, but rather to follow them in secret, making it easier to act. Having planned everything meticulously and asking the celestial maiden Guanghui some related questions, memorizing all possible risks, he then allowed the celestial maiden Guanghui to report the situation here in advance to the Moon God Palace using the meat-winged monster communication method. The situation in Changpan Valley is normal, Carrie, and they haven't sent back news because they're holding a competition to torture and kill humans, wanting them to die in a more painful way. But they forgot the time. I've been urging them. Rest assured, everything is under control. The celestial maiden Guanghui infused this information into the Huangquan water, then threw it into the air, and the Huangquan water immediately turned into a white beam, merging into the 2 moon pupils above Changpan Valley. For the meat-winged monster, the more pain humans experience before dying, the stronger they become after being sacrificed into Huangquan monsters. This is why the meat-winged monsters use various cruel methods to kill humans. The celestial maiden Guanghui's reason was sufficient. Very well, let's set off then, Xiang Beifei said. The celestial maiden Guanghui waved her hand, taking Jiang Shan and the others away from Changpan Valley. Outside of Changpan Valley is an endless dense forest, stretching for thousands of miles, where powerful desolate beasts reside year-round, all at the god refining and orifice transforming stages, layer upon layer surrounding Changpan Valley. The humans of Changpan Valley have thought of leaving, but have mostly been blocked by this layer of desolate beasts. The celestial maiden Guanghui has transformed back into her divine form, her clothes floating like clouds, her entire body emitting a sacred light, her white wings gently fluttering, as elegant as a fairy untouched by the earthly world. Uncle Liang and the others stood behind the celestial maiden Guanghui, being supported by a ball of white light as they flew. Even if they felt resistant inside, they had to admit that the celestial maiden Guanghui was indeed too beautiful. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have been able to associate her with the meat-winged monster that Xiang Beifei had trampled out of its original form. They were quite nervous about this journey. After all, it was a one-way trip with no return. But thinking that Xiang Beifei was right beside them, they felt a little relieved. This was probably the first time in their lives that they had left Changpan Valley such a far distance, and watching the roars of those ferocious and powerful desolate beasts below, they couldn't help but feel alarmed. However, with a flash of white light from the celestial maiden Guanghui, those desolate beasts were frightened, prostrated on the ground trembling, not daring to lift their heads. The group quickly left this area, crossing the many mountains and forests, heading towards the distance. Xiang Beifei quickly discovered that within the majestic mountains below, there seemed to be many places similar to Changpan Valley, where other E-tribes lived, as he saw some one-armed tribe people. "Have you also been keeping other races in captivity?" Xiang Beifei asked in a deep voice. "Naturally, humans are our main egg sac, but not the only one. We capture various powerful races to use as egg sacs and sacrifices, to see which race is more suitable. But currently, there's no doubt that humans are the best egg sacs, as all experts in the tribe with more than 6 wings come from humans," the celestial maiden Guanghui said. Jiang Shan and the others were quite furious upon hearing this, and Uncle Liang even wanted to pull out his smoking pipe to tap on the celestial maiden Guanghui's head again, but held back, knowing it wasn't the time for that. Xiang Beifei said nothing, but at that moment Xiao He suddenly barked as a reminder, "Woof woof!" "Oh? Really?" Xiang Beifei took out the mound spirit, and the direction of the flames also pointed in the direction the celestial maiden Guanghui was heading, which meant Wu Ho was in the direction of Moon God Palace. Of course, he couldn't be sure that Moon God Palace was at Wu Ho, because the mound spirit only indicated a direction and wouldn't specify how far the distance was. Perhaps Wu Ho was further away, and Moon God Palace was just happening to be on the way. "Does your Moon God Palace have something special? Like a cave full of various patterns?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Our Moon God Palace has many mysterious caves, some places where only senior elders have the qualification to enter." The celestial maiden Guanghui was unsure what Xiang Beifei wanted to ask. Xiang Beifei did not ask further, deciding to speak when they reached there. The territory of the meat-winged monster was vast, even larger than Juzhou. Even at the celestial maiden Guanghui's orifice transforming stage flying speed, they flew for about an hour, a speed fast enough to cross Juzhou back and forth. Yet according to the celestial maiden Guanghui, they hadn't reached the center of the territory, because the Moon God Palace was at the center of the moon pupil. The further they flew, the brighter the light became. The sky was a vast expanse of white, excessively bright. Soon, the celestial maiden Guanghui began to descend, landing on the ground, surrounded by various sacred moon god race members flying back and forth. These meat-winged monsters normally presented themselves in pure forms, countless figures with human-like appearances and white wings coming and going. Various white plants also grew here, similar to the white vines outside Changpan Valley, all emitting a faint white glow. Uncle Liang and the others couldn't help but marvel. This place indeed seemed like a place where divine beings lived, sacred, bright, with the air full of a joyful atmosphere, making the winged people here carefree and desirable. Greetings to the celestial maiden. As the celestial maiden Guanghui passed by, Those divine envoys passing by stopped to greet politely. In the eyes of these human-looking meat-winged monsters, the celestial maiden Guanghui held a high status because she had 4 wings, but far from 8 pairs of wings, since she was assessed as having 8 wing potential and just hadn't fully grown yet. The celestial maiden Guanghui also nodded slightly to greet each of her handsome-looking clan members, and those winged divine envoys, seeing the 3 humans behind the celestial maiden Guanghui, had some peculiar looks, clearly thinking that the celestial maiden Guanghui had found 3 more offerings to harvest. However, these divine envoys still bore smiles at the corners of their mouths, nodding amiably to Uncle Liang and the other 3, as if they were welcoming guests. Celestial maiden Guanghui, are you returning? At this moment, a man with 4 wings also flew over, nodding in greeting, his expression gentle and bright, as if he could melt the world's ice and snow. Yes, just returned. Did you receive the message I sent back? The celestial maiden Guanghui asked. Just received it. The 4-winged man nodded meaningfully, turning his gaze to Jiang Shan and the others, asking, are these 3 humans chosen by destiny? Yes, they have all cultivated the moonprint to the full moon. They are very diligent and hardworking humans, and their talents are also extremely rare. The celestial maiden Guanghui, controlled by Xiang Beifei, said with an elegant face. Oh, how rare. The 4-winged man asked in surprise. The celestial maiden Guanghui gestured that he could inspect it himself. The 4-winged man smiled at Jiang Shan and his group, saying, hello, my name is Wu Tian, a 4-winged guiding messenger. Welcome to the Moon God Palace. The 4-winged man introduced himself to Jiang Shan and his group in a very polite tone, his face full of smiles, making the 3 feel at home. Such an attitude made Jiang Shan and his group unable to find any fault, and anyone would likely drop their guard and unconditionally trust this 4-winged man. Divine Envoy, you are welcome. My name is Jiang Dongliang. This is Jiang Feng, our clan leader of the Changpan Valley, and this is Jiang Shan, a powerful hunter from the Changpan Valley. Uncle Liang pretended to be in awe, nodding and bowing. Wu Tian smiled and said, no need to be polite, old man. We are all citizens of the Divine Lord. Being able to come here proves that you all hold gratitude towards the Divine Lord, and from now on we are family. Pa! Only a fool would be family with you. Uncle Liang couldn't help but curse in his heart, but he still wore a frightened look and said, yes, yes, the Divine Lord blesses us. May I see the moonprint that the Divine Lord left on your arms to protect you? Wu Tian asked gently. Uncle Liang and the others immediately extended their arms, revealing the marks on their arms. All full moons. It seems that you are all deeply devoted to the Divine Lord. This is very good. The Divine Lord will protect any citizen who cultivates their moonprint to a full moon. Wu Tian extended his slender, fair fingers as delicate as spring onions, truly rare for a man to have such fingers. His fingertips emitted a faint glow, touching Uncle Liang's wrist. His eyes suddenly brightened. This is an egg with 6 wing potential. He looked at the moonprints of the other 2 and his smile grew even more radiant. 3 6-wing eggs. The moonprint gathers the power granted to you by the Divine Lord. Your potential has been fully developed with the Divine Lord's help. Very good. The Divine Lord will be delighted. Wu Tian looked very satisfied and said, I will guide you to the sacred pool to receive the Divine Lord's baptism. Your hard cultivation in Changpan Valley will eventually be rewarded. Congratulations to you, as you will reap the final fruits at the sacred pool. He seemed to be sincerely blessing the 3, his tone and attitude brimming with happiness, leaving no room for fault. Anyone unaware of the truth would likely be very excited to hear such words. Uncle Liang and the others cursed inwardly once again, but still pretended to be happy and said again, the Divine Lord blesses us. I'll go with you. After all, I was the one who guided these 3 humans. The celestial maiden Guanghui said. All right. Wu Tian didn't object. Their group continued to move forward, but this time they didn't walk far before stopping, seemingly arriving at the edge of a cliff. There was no road ahead, as if the earth had collapsed downwards, and all that could be seen was an endless dark abyss, with no visible bottom. The most bizarre part was that this abyss seemed like a boundless ocean, with no visible boundaries. However, above the abyss, there were several towering peaks, rising as if from the depths of the chasm. They were more like bizarre stone pillars than mountains, with the pillars extending crookedly into the air. On these pillars were various square buildings with round roofs, like mushrooms with a very unique style. White mist drifted leisurely above the abyss, creating a serene atmosphere. "This is the Moon God Palace," Wu Tian introduced. Uncle Liang and the others were awestruck, even knowing that this was not a good place. They couldn't help but marvel at these magnificent and grand buildings, looking like the dwelling of gods, filled with harmony and sanctity. However, Xiang Beifei, hidden and unseen to the side, frowned. The seemingly sacred paradise in front of him was not like that in reality. His eyes gradually covered with a white glow, and all harmonious scenes disappeared. Those twisted stone pillars were not made of stone at all, but rather comprised of very bizarre yellow bones. Even those pavilions and towers that appeared dignified and elegant, their walls were piled with bones, most of which belonged to desolate beasts, though some were human skulls. The hollow sockets of the skulls emitted a dark yellow flame, flickering erratically. Those flames were overwhelmingly sinister, seeming to carry a breath of madness, accompanied by the sound of howling. And beneath these structures, in the abyss below, the original white mist transformed into a yellow miasma. Strange echoes reverberated from below, some low, some piercing, occasionally intermingled with human screams, accompanied by the wails of other desolate beasts, and even the voices of other E-tribe members. Felt as though one had stepped into hell. Xiang Beifei withdrew his gaze, and the surroundings returned to their original sacred, heavenly appearance. This Moon God Palace exhibited two drastically different scenes, much like the true nature of the meat-winged monster. Yet they always presented the sacred side to outsiders. Those like Uncle Liang, who lacked sufficient cultivation, could not perceive the true nature. Of course, even other E-tribe cultivators at the heavenly connection stage might not see through here, as the meat-winged monster race habitually crafted themselves into hypocritical appearances. This way, Wu Tian, smiling, walked toward the cliff edge. As soon as he stepped into midair, a row of golden shining steps appeared below, one after another, stretching upward all the way to the sacred palace. Everyone followed him, stepping onto the steps. To be honest, these floating steps induced a sense of vertigo, for beneath them lay the unseen abyss. Uncle Liang and the others were mere mortals, unaccustomed to such grand sights, and their throats felt somewhat dry. At this moment, the steps beneath them began to branch off, guiding them toward one of the stone pillar structures. Around this stone pillar was a potent barrier, protecting the place thoroughly. In front, 12 huge, pristine white wings were gathered together. At the gate stood two beautiful divine envoys, a male and a female, standing beside the wings as if guarding the place. Upon seeing Wu Tian, they frowned slightly. "The holy pool's ground, do not enter without purpose," one of the women said politely. "I have brought these 3 devoted believers to receive a baptism by the Divine Lord. They possess the 6-wing quality," said Wu Tian. The woman's expression clearly showed some surprise, but she quickly added, "We are not in charge of this. The divine envoy in charge of surveillance needs to confirm it." The 2 divine envoys scrutinized Uncle Liang and the other 2 humans, then placed their hands on the wings behind them. A crack suddenly appeared in the stone wall above, revealing a giant eye, about the size of a fist, looking exceedingly authoritative. Holy brilliance radiated from this eye, falling upon the 3 of them, as if seeing through them. Immediately after, the eye suddenly shone with a strange divine light, turning from white to gold. Seeing this, Wu Tian reminded, "The Divine Lord has acknowledged you. You should kneel to thank the Divine Lord for his protection, for it is the Divine Lord who has granted us everything." Uncle Liang and others felt very angry in their hearts, as they had come to understand the true nature of the meat-winged monster, a mere ugly bastard. Yet, the 3 knew the purpose of their visit and could only kneel, bowing to the statue. "Thank you, Divine Lord, for your protection," Uncle Liang and the others said. "The Divine Lord has bestowed you with power, extended your lives. Are you willing to dedicate everything to the Divine Lord?" "We are willing." Uncle Liang and the three others knelt on the ground, heads bowed, trying hard to look as if they were grateful. Wu Tian inadvertently smirked with ridicule. "Pathetic livestock, truly foolish." After a moment, he spoke. "You are all devout believers of the Divine Lord. As divine envoys, Guanghui the Celestial Maiden and I have decided to guide you away from the suffering of the mortal world. But you must pass some trials. If you are truly devoted to the Divine Lord, such trials will elevate your soul and grant you greater power. Are you willing?" "We are willing," Uncle Liang and the others responded. "Then that's good. You can enter the holy pool to receive the baptism of the Divine Lord." Wu Tian smiled faintly. Whoa! The 12 wings that were gathered opened up, and a white halo emerged among the wings, resembling the entrance to a teleportation space, filled with white light, as if leading to a bright future. The gentle light at the entrance slowly rotated, and a sound akin to celestial music subtly emerged from within, melodious and hazy, as if a maiden from somewhere was singing, filled with a joyful and delightful aura. When Uncle Liang and the others heard the sound coming from the entrance, their eyes immediately became unfocused, as if their souls had been drawn out, immersed in this wonderful music. Everyone was full of fantasies about this entrance, where it seemed like a paradise, and they couldn't wait to enter and embrace a new world. The three of them became quite entranced and took a step into the entrance, disappearing into that light. Xiang Beifei frowned slightly but did not act hastily, only staring at the entrance with contemplation. The entrance had a very powerful enchantment, exuding a strong oppressive force. This oppression was such that even experts at the late stage of the heavenly connection realm might not be able to resist it. Attempting to venture through it was nothing but wishful thinking, because this enchantment was set by an expert above the heavenly connection realm. This meant it was at least the defense of the immortal realm. When Uncle Liang and Jiang Shan disappeared into the entrance, that gigantic eye once again emitted a beam of light, scanning their entire bodies obviously to check for any suspicious forces within them. Although Xiang Beifei concealed his presence using orifice perception at this time, if he wished to pass through this entrance, it was clear he would be exposed to this scrutiny. Who set up this defense? The Eternal Night Demon King. Xiang Beifei's voice rang in Celestial Maiden Guanghui's mind. It's him, but not just him. What do you mean by that? Our moon god race are all servants of Huangquan. Even our Divine Lord has sacrificed himself to Huangquan. Huangquan is our source of power, so this defense was laid by the Eternal Night Demon King relying on Huangquan's power. It's impossible for even immortal realm cultivators to quietly enter it. Celestial Maiden Guanghui looked exceptionally proud. Even the immortal realm can be detected? Xiang Beifei asked, surprised. Of course. This is the incubation holy pool of our moon god race, and it's also our future, naturally requiring tier upon tier of protection. The Netherworld Holy Eye possesses infinite power. No human can single-handedly contend with the power of Huangquan. Even though Celestial Maiden Guanghui was controlled by Xiang Beifei and could not reveal his presence, Xiang Beifei did not strip her of her consciousness. She still retained her thoughts, just unable to disclose the truth to her companions. Upon seeing this gigantic eye now, a slight cold laugh emerged within her heart. So this thing is called the Netherworld Holy Eye. Xiang Beifei nodded with some realization. For someone as powerful as the Eternal Night Demon King to personally protect this, it indicated its importance to the meat-winged monster. At this moment, Wu Tian, who was walking at the front, also stepped forward, disappearing into the entrance. The two moon gods responsible for guarding this place looked at Celestial Maiden Guanghui, waiting to inspect her. I admit you are strong, but our moon god palace isn't somewhere anyone can just enter without being noticed. The Netherworld Holy Eye is a more powerful presence than the moon pupil. Although I don't know how you managed to evade the moon pupil, you definitely won't be able to deceive the mighty Netherworld Holy Eye.
Celestial Maiden Guanghui sneered.
Perhaps being on her home turf made her less fearful now. She had been waiting for an opportunity, as long as she could seize the moment when Xiang Beifei let down his guard to send a message to her tribe's experts. Xiang Beifei would surely meet his end with no burial place. No other convenient way? Xiang Beifei asked. Even I can't freely come and go, and you expect there to be other convenient ways? Even if you manage to attach yourself to me through some means, this netherworld holy I will detect it.
Celestial maiden Guanghui sneered repeatedly.
Oh really? Then I'll have to give it a try. Xiang Beifei shrugged his shoulders. Celestial maiden Guanghui squinted her eyes. Although Xiang Beifei, this human, was very mysterious, she didn't believe he could break through Huangquan's defenses. She was now eager for Xiang Beifei to attempt it and then be discovered by the moon pupil, alarming the elders of 8 and 10 wings to come out and eliminate Xiang Beifei in one fell swoop. Xiang Beifei leisurely walked to the entrance, scrutinizing the defense system that even experts of the immortal realm couldn't breach, and then took out a brick. Thunk! The rune struck directly at the entrance. The gigantic eye became covered with golden runes, and the white light at the entrance completely solidified. Xiang Beifei took a step forward, disappearing into the entrance. Whoosh! The whole process took less than half a second, and everything returned to normal. While that supposedly formidable netherworld holy eye in Celestial Maiden Guanghui's eyes seemed to not even react. Nor did any alarm go off. He actually went in. Celestial Maiden Guanghui was shocked. As a member of the Moon God race, she knew very well about the netherworld holy eye in the forbidden area. That was an extremely terrifying thing, capable of monitoring every moon god. Not even the Eternal Night Demon King dared to claim to withstand the netherworld holy eye. But Xiang Beifei just passed through like that. A human had silently intruded into their stronghold, and the 2 moon pupils in the sky weren't aware. Let alone the netherworld holy eye didn't even detect it. Were they blind? Celestial Maiden Guanghui was utterly shocked. Celestial Maiden Guanghui, do you want to go in? The handsome guard responsible for guarding the area asked. Celestial Maiden Guanghui looked at the 2 guardians with uncertainty. Though these 2 only had 4-wing quality and weren't as highly regarded as her 8-wing potential, the guards responsible for watching this place had connections with the netherworld holy eye, granting them far more authority than she had. Unexpectedly, Xiang Beifei managed to slip right under their noses without them noticing. The Celestial Maiden Guanghui really wanted to loudly inform these 2 idiots that a 4th human had just infiltrated. But the voice of Xiang Beifei echoed in her mind. Come in! She was filled with resentment, utterly unable to reveal the truth, and could only take a step forward, entering the passage. After passing through the entrance enveloped by 12 wings, Uncle Liang and the others seemed to arrive at a sacred mountain, where the scenery was enchanting and lush with foliage. The mountain resembled terraced fields, with a pool of clear water every few steps, emitting a soothing aroma with a gentle steam rising from it. The air here smells so delightful. Living here would be so blissful, commented Uncle Liang. Uncle Liang appeared utterly immersed in the mountain's atmosphere, inhaling deeply, fully absorbed by its charms, even forgetting the purpose of his visit. Jiang Shan and Jiang Feng felt similarly. Even though they had exceptional composure, their strength was too feeble to remain calm here. It seemed there was an inexplicable force paralyzing their nerves, making them feel joyous and enamored with the place. If you wish to reside here, you definitely can. I've brought you here to offer you a better life, Wu Tian said with a smile. Really? Uncle Liang asked excitedly. Of course, but this is a sacred place. Your status is too low, bodies laden with impurities. Only by cleansing these impurities and undergoing a ritual can you earn the Divine Lord's approval, Wu Tian explained. Please tell us how we can do it, Uncle Liang eagerly asked. It's quite simple. Step into the sacred pool, and it will perform a complete ritual for you, Wu Tian said. Wu Tian pointed to the clear waters, which started to ripple, misty and ethereal, creating a delightful ambience. Upon hearing this, the 3 moved involuntarily towards the nearest pool. As they reached its edge, bubbles suddenly began to appear, followed by sprays of water shooting out like fountains. These jets didn't fall back into the pool, instead floating midair like tentacles, gently swirling and wrapping around Uncle Liang's limbs and neck. Are you willing to offer yourself entirely to the Divine Lord? Wu Tian had already begun to display a sinister grin. We are willing, Uncle Liang responded hazily. So which ritual do you plan to accept? Flaying? Deadening? Or slowly bleeding to death in agony? Or perhaps organ extraction, amputation? Being compressed by steel plates lined with needles? As humans, you bear sin from birth. You must choose the most painful ritual for your soul to transcend, thereby gaining the Divine Lord's approval and being eternally by its side, Wu Tian elaborated. With a gentle wave of Wu Tian's hand, the tentacles from the clear pool slowly transformed into various execution tools. Pointed deboning knives, long tweezers, and even human-shaped boards lined with needles, each needle a foot long, capable of penetrating through a person's body when compressed. These execution tools are exceedingly sharp, inflicting excruciating pain on humans while preserving their consciousness, gradually dulling their senses until they crumble. The more pain experienced in life, the stronger the power bestowed upon the Huangquan monsters in the afterlife. For pain is the source of Huangquan's power. Have you decided which ritual to choose? Wu Tian relished tormenting those led here, who foolishly thought they'd cultivated their moonprint to its fullest, allowing them to ascend and become superior beings. But in reality, what awaits them is terrifying agony. Which ritual to choose? Their minds were blurry, though strangely aware of the ritual's painful nature, a frightening force clouding their thoughts and making them willing to accept it. But which to choose? They couldn't make up their minds. Allow me to offer some advice. Old man, choose the ritual of needles piercing your body. You should opt for deadening, while the clan leader of Changpan Valley should undergo skinning, Wu Tian suggested with a cruel smile. All right. The three seemed to have no objections, agreeing in a muddled fashion. Wu Tian waved his hand, and all the water column instruments slowly enveloped their bodies. The needle-lined boards already clamped Uncle Liang from both sides, while the sharp deadening knives started piercing Jiang Shan and Jiang Feng at the base of their necks. But just at that moment, buzz! A beam of light echoed in the air, and all the torture devices abruptly halted in midair, unable to advance an inch further. I came just a few seconds late, and it's starting so quickly? Xiang Beifei furrowed his brows, then snapped his fingers with a loud crack. Snap! At the moment Uncle Liang and the others heard the snap, they felt a shock coursing through their minds, snapping them out of their dazed state. Where once stood a holy mountain, there was now no trace of sanctity left. Upon closer inspection, they discovered the mountain was made entirely of various bones, some still clinging with flesh, as if freshly hewn. They stood upon a massive skull. The ground vaguely revealed human remnants, even many shriveled heads, wrapped only with a thin layer of skin, appearing as if drained of blood, with skin pressed tightly against bone, unable to find peace even in death. Yet, the blood and flesh weren't solely human. They included remnants of various desolate beasts and tribespeople, slaughtered by the meat-winged monster and piled here. The pool that seemed so clear moments ago was actually filled with fresh blood, bubbling like boiling liquid, yet refusing to coagulate. The air now lacked any freshness, entirely consumed by the nauseating stench of blood. This was nothing short of a horrific hellish killing ground. This place, my God! Uncle Liang, upon witnessing this scene, almost leapt in fright, nearly crashing into the steel needle plank meant to squash him flat. What's going on? Why did it feel like we were suddenly bewitched? Jiang Shan asked, trembling with fear. They still remembered Wu Tian's words crystal clearly. Wu Tian intended to torture them in every gruesome manner for some so-called baptism. Yet somehow, they all seemed eager to embrace such torment without a hint of resistance. Illusions, you can't fend off these illusions. Xiang Beifei calmly surveyed his surroundings. Uncle Liang gasped, but was quickly choked by the foul stench, coughing for quite some time before spitting disdainfully and pinching his nose, asking in horror. So were all the people of Changpan Valley tortured to death like this? Yes, Celestial Maiden Guanghui replied. Thinking of how he was nearly pierced through by the long steel needle plank, Uncle Liang and the others shivered involuntarily. If it weren't for Xiang Beifei, they might have lost their lives here. Guanghui, what's going on? Why is there another human here? Wu Tian suddenly noticed a stranger among them, who managed to break the illusion, sensing something amiss, and demanded an explanation. But he quickly realized in terror that he was suddenly unable to move, as if some powerful force had immobilized all his strength. Who are you? Wu Tian, smelling danger, dramatically changed in expression. Xiang Beifei glanced at Wu Tian calmly, then turned to Celestial Maiden Guanghui to ask, "Is he more familiar with this place than you are?" "No, my rank is higher. I know more," Celestial Maiden Guanghui answered. "Then he's of no use." Xiang Beifei nonchalantly snapped his fingers again. Whoosh! The two steel needle planks initially aiming to clamp Uncle Liang abruptly sped over, surrounding Wu Tian. "What do you plan to do? Celestial Maiden Guanghui, what are you doing? Stop this human." Wu Tian looked in shock and anger at the two steel needle planks. Having used such torture instruments to torment humans for years, he knew all too well what these planks meant. Snap! Just as he finished speaking, the two steel needle planks clamped down forcefully on Wu Tian's entire body. "Ah!" A scream echoed around. This is a type of yellow spring torture device. Each needle's position is meticulously planned, piercing the target's special nerves, filling the target's body with pain, yet not causing immediate death. The yellow spring torture device adjusts the position of the steel needles according to the physical structure of different races, targeting not only the human race but also other E-tribes treated as egg sheaths, due to their unique consciousness. That means the steel needle board is effective against the meat-winged monster too. The steel needle board pinches Wu Tian, making him suffer unbearable pain, his screams echoing continuously. Normally, he would use this torture device to cruelly torment and kill humans, but he never imagined he would become the target of it. Wu Tian's screams lasted for a long time before disappearing, crushed into a puddle of yellow spring water, vanishing on the ground. Uncle Liang looked in horror at Wu Tian, who had been crushed by the steel needle board, sweat breaking out from the fright. Being crushed by the steel needle board was excruciating, and the heart-wrenching screams made his heart tremble. If it weren't for Xiang Beifei's intervention, he might have been crushed to death by the steel needle board. Is this how they slaughter us humans? Even though Jiang Feng had strong composure, he shuddered in fear when facing these vicious torture devices. Thinking about how his father and grandfather devotedly worshipped the moon god all their lives, only to be brought here and slaughtered by these cruel means, sadness filled his heart. People from Changpan Valley have been supervised all these years to cultivate diligently and to be grateful for the moon god for granting them the right to cultivate, sending outstanding humans from the tribe here every year to receive the moon god's baptism, only to face this kind of fate. The three stood silently in place, feeling terrible inside. "My condolences," Xiang Beifei said. "We must destroy this place," Uncle Liang said through gritted teeth. "I will." Xiang Beifei needs to thoroughly understand the situation here first. He stood by the blood pool, looking at the bubbling pool, then squatted down, stirring the blood water with a long bone. Spiritual power slightly vibrated, and suddenly the blood pool began to gurgle, with many moonprint goo worms swimming up from the bottom, swarming in panic. These moonprint goo worms were no longer flat. Instead, they seemed to have absorbed the blood aura here and started growing limbs, resembling a miniature version of the meat-winged monster, with two budding meat wings on their backs. Xiao Houzi hasn't cultivated to the full moon, so the moonprint goo worm parasitizing him shouldn't be able to hatch yet, right? Xiang Beifei asked. Celestial Maiden Guanghui seemed very angry but still nodded. Where would Xiao Houzi's moonprint be? Jiang Shan asked urgently. Xiang Beifei looked inquiringly at Celestial Maiden Guanghui. It should be at the very bottom, Celestial Maiden Guanghui replied resentfully. The moonprint goo worms in different blood pools are different. On this blood-bone-composed mountain, the eggs in the lowest blood pool are still in their initial form, just like when taken from a human's wrist. while higher-up eggs have started growing towards the meat-winged monster's form. Eggs at different stages are in different pools, and the higher the pool, the closer the eggs are to hatching. Before arriving, Xiang Beifei had already learned many related details about the meat-winged monster from Celestial Maiden Guanghui. After cultivating on a human's wrist till the full moon, the meat-winged monster must then incubate here for 2 more years to become fully formed. Most of these pools contain human blood, and some contain desolate beast blood. The eggs need to absorb the essence of the pool to grow. Different pools have different powers. When one pool's essence cannot satisfy the eggs anymore, they will automatically crawl to other pools. They quickly arrived at the bottom layer of the flesh and blood mountain, where Xiang Beifei waved his spiritual power, stirring out all the moonprint goo worms. The moonprint goo worms here are still incubating, without the features of the meat-winged monster appearing. What will you do after finding that egg? If an unhatched egg returns, even if it hasn't completely devoured your human soul, you can hardly bring a person back to life, can you? Celestial Maiden Guanghui snorted coldly. When moonprint goo worms parasitize a human, they connect to the human's meridians and erode the human soul. When humans encounter danger, they immediately detach from the human, taking away the human soul to seek self-preservation. Thus, when humans in Chongpan Valley go hunting, desolate beasts rarely kill them, as the moonprint goo worms seeking self-preservation flee before desolate beasts swallow them, resulting in human death. The reason moonprint goo worms take human souls is to extract power from them, allowing them to escape back here, awaiting a new round of parasitic assignment or directly hatching here. Once they absorb all the soul's power, it becomes irreversible. Xiao Houzi won't be harmed, Jiang Shan said through clenched teeth. Whether he will be harmed is not something this vile beast can decide. Celestial Maiden Guanghui sneered. Xiang Beifei continued searching among the moonprint goo worms, while Xiaohe rolled his eyes and simply jumped into the blood pool, swimming around. They were familiar with Xiao Houzi's aura, so it wasn't hard to find him. Woof woof. Soon, Xiaohe poked his head out, finding a moonprint goo worm. This moonprint goo worm was still crescent-shaped, having hardly cultivated, still retaining Xiao Houzi's aura. Xiang Beifei immediately took the moonprint goo worm and examined it closely. Fortunately, the soul power of the goo worm had not been completely depleted. Is this the moonprint of Xiao Houzi? Jiang Shan asked eagerly. It should be, Xiang Beifei replied. Can Xiao Houzi still be saved? Uncle Liang asked. I'll try. He originally wanted to try again later, but the soul power attached to the moonprint was gradually fading. Every minute of delay would weaken Xiao Houzi's soul power. However, this wasn't a major issue. The power of return to the original state instantly spread from Xiang Beifei to the moonprint goo worm, as he had to restore the soul power that had been devoured by the moonprint goo worm. The moonprint goo worm had no way to resist Xiang Beifei's return to the original state. It returned the soul power in the same way it had devoured it. But Xiang Beifei didn't restore too much of the soul. He kept it at the state before Xiao Houzi died. Otherwise, over-restoration would lead to the moonprint goo worm's aura being too weak to coordinate with that body. Xiang Beifei waved his hand again, and Xiao Houzi's body appeared in midair. He transplanted the moonprint goo worm onto Xiao Houzi's wrist. These unformed moonprint goo worms cannot cultivate independently and must rely on absorbing the host's physical strength. When Xiang Beifei transplanted the moonprint goo worm onto Xiao Houzi, it immediately burrowed into Xiao Houzi's arm eagerly, like a fish returning to the sea. When the moonprint goo worm entered Xiao Houzi's wrist, it realized this was a dead body, unfit for parasitism, and wanted to escape. But Xiang Beifei directly blocked its retreat, forcing it to accept the body. The moonprint goo worm was intimidated by Xiang Beifei's power, knowing it would be in trouble if it didn't accept the body. To preserve itself, the moonprint goo worm began working hard to activate the body's various perceptions, allowing the heart and brain to restart. The soul power gradually returned to Xiao Houzi's body, suddenly emitting a white glow that enveloped his body's meridians. Xiang Beifei guided this power, helping the moonprint goo worm readjust within Xiao Houzi's body. This body was restored by Xiang Beifei's returned to the original state. So it was relatively familiar. The moonprint goo worm was originally in this body, so returning wasn't too difficult. Soon, Xiao Houzi began to breathe. Is he really alive? Jiang Shan was overjoyed and wanted to approach but restrained himself. Jiang Feng was also incredulous, having never witnessed such an odd way of rescuing someone. He realized the dead could be revived in this strange method. But for a long time, Xiao Houzi didn't open his eyes. But why isn't he awake? Jiang Feng asked. He hasn't fully adjusted yet. He'll wake up, Xiang Beifei said. Thank you. Thank you. Jiang Shan was immensely grateful. Xiang Beifei also breathed a slight sigh of relief. Being able to save Xiao Houzi could be considered an exception. For ordinary Zhuzhou people, there's no way to resurrect after death. But people in Changpan Valley were quite special. Strictly speaking, their souls were preserved by the moonprint goo worm. To survive, the moonprint goo worm would make every effort to bring the host body's quality to its standard, which is why Xiao Houzi could be revived. Xiang Beifei waved his hand again, using systematic abilities to collect Xiao Houzi. At this time, Uncle Liang asked, "Right, can these other eggs also be saved?" Last month, Niu's son was eaten by a desolate beast while hunting. Is his moonprint also here? Xiang Beifei shook his head and said, "Too much time has passed. The soul power is likely mostly consumed, and I don't know where his body is." Last month, Xiang Beifei hadn't been here and couldn't do anything about it. Most of these eggs were parasitic on humans, but due to accidents, they fled back here to wait for redistribution. Many soul powers dissipated, unlike the luck of Xiao Houzi. On the side, Celestial Maiden Guanghui was even more astonished. She hadn't expected that Xiang Beifei truly possessed such abilities. But she was increasingly uneasy because Xiang Beifei could destroy these eggs. If these eggs were all destroyed, it would cut off the lifeline of their moon god race. Since these eggs are useless, they can't be allowed to continue aiding evil, Uncle Liang said angrily. There were tens of thousands of eggs here, not all from humans. There were other E-tribe people too. But tens of thousands of eggs meant that the meat-winged monsters slaughtered tens of thousands of hosts, building their race's continuation on the enslavement and slaughter of others. Uncle Liang had long been deeply disgusted with these eggs. Xiang Beifei also had the same idea. Just as he was about to act, Xiaohe suddenly raised its head and called out cautiously. Xiang Beifei also sensed something was wrong. Not good. Someone's coming in, Xiang Beifei said in a low voice. What do we do now? Uncle Liang asked. You act like just now. Xiang Beifei immediately used orifice perception to conceal himself, and he gave a warning glance to Celestial Maiden Guanghui, forbidding her from slipping up. A fluctuation came through the air, as if the netherworld holy eye was checking someone again. A white light flashed, and a middle-aged man with a kindly face appeared on the hill. Xiang Beifei's gaze slightly hardened. This middle-aged man had 8 wings. To cultivate 8 wings meant this guy was even stronger than the flaming 6 wings encountered previously. Master! Celestial Maiden Guanghui's eyes were filled with intense emotion. Clearly, this middle-aged man was Wu Bai. If not controlled by Xiang Beifei, she would have roared out. Master, you finally came. Stop that bastard. Although Celestial Maiden Guanghui couldn't speak the truth, Wu Bai's presence gave her great confidence. She hoped Wu Bai would quickly sense something amiss and rescue her. Wu Bai gave Celestial Maiden Guanghui a slight smile, saying, Guanghui, as I was passing by earlier, the guards told me you brought back 3 gifted livestock. What potential do they have? The talents devoured by the meat-winged monsters are human talents, crucial for them. Even a powerful being like Wu Bai would be particularly attentive to this. Celestial Maiden Guanghui responded, Lord Wu, they have 6-wing potential. Oh? 6 wings. Wu Bai's eyes lit up, looking quite pleased. We haven't found 6-wing potential for many years. Those Changpan Valley livestock finally produced a batch of rare good seeds. Eggs with 6-wing potential are extremely rare because, if nurtured properly, the meat-winged monsters from 6-wing potential can certainly cultivate to the heavenly connection realm in the future. Celestial Maiden Guanghui, seeing her master's joy for the six-wing potential, was unsure what to say. After all, she had witnessed the 12-wing divine eggs today, and there were two. Indeed, the livestock in Changpan Valley went all out this time. Celestial Maiden Guanghui nodded in agreement. Wu Bai turned his gaze to Uncle Liang and the others, scrutinizing the moonprints on their arms, confirming they were 3 six-wing moonprints, and smiled even more happily. "I'm in a good mood today, so I'll personally torment these 3, Wu Bai said kindly. Uncle Liang and the others tensed up once more upon hearing this. Meanwhile, Xiang Beifei realized that things were amiss. Wu Bai wasn't like Wu Tian, a practitioner at the orifice transforming stage. This guy was powerful, stronger than the flaming 6 wings at that time, and one-shot killing him was impossible. This was troublesome. The Celestial Maiden Guanghui was already brimming with excitement inside at this moment. She couldn't wait for her master to personally take action, to first kill these 3 humans out of spite. She didn't believe that Xiang Beifei, this human, would dare to confront Wu Bai. She was all too familiar with Wu Bai's strength. He was an expert in the later stages of heavenly connection, almost half a step into the immortal realm. Having lived for several centuries, he had been diligently practicing the Tao to comprehend the way of eternity, and his strength was among the most powerful within the moon god race. Although Xiang Beifei was a bit peculiar, she was certain that he had not reached Wu Bai's level. Just because Xiang Beifei could kill Wu Tian just now doesn't mean he has the ability to kill Wu Bai. This meant that Uncle Liang and these 3 humans wouldn't be safe today. Uncle Liang and the others also realized the severity of this issue. They knew who the meat-winged monster before them was because they had heard of Wu Bai in Changpan Valley. Xiang Beifei immediately ordered the Celestial Maiden Guanghui to stop this matter. "Master, in my opinion, I'll take care of it myself later. Master is busy with many affairs, so there's no need to trouble you," voiced the Celestial Maiden Guanghui, but in her heart, she had cursed Xiang Beifei dozens of times. "It's all right. I've been comprehending the immortal Great Tao recently and am close to entering that gate. I need to kill several more sacrifices to offer to the Yellow Spring. These creatures can conveniently serve as backup offerings," Wu Bai said kindly. Celestial Maiden Guanghui's eyes lit up as she asked, "Master, your immortal Great Tao is about to be perfected?" "Indeed. Recently, I've been trying to achieve the Tao of eternity through the path of slaughter and discovered that slaughter suits me best. A few days ago, I deliberately wiped out the Panjiao race, killed all their members. It was not easy but enlightening. Of course, I spared the children. Their race has decent talent that can be cultivated and nurtured into valuable resources." Wu Bai discussed the extermination of an entire race as if he were casually talking about everyday matters like eating and sleeping. "The Panjiao race? I remember their clan leader Zhao Buzi was also at the half-step to the immortal realm. How did you kill him, Master?" asked the Celestial Maiden Guanghui in surprise. Both being half-step immortal realm experts, killing one another was extremely difficult. Wu Bai nodded and smiled. Although he was strong, he was not in the immortal realm after all. "I went in as a guest, told him our moon god race could discuss cooperation with them. As you know, the Panjiao race has always trusted us and wanted to rise with our moon god race's support. So I took the opportunity to assassinate him while he was off guard." Wu Bai spoke these words frankly, showing no shame or loss of face in front of his disciple. To their kind, all races in the wildlands could be used as sacrifices. Assassinating an allied race was not seen as despicable or shameless. As long as sacrifices could be obtained, all sorts of cruel and dishonorable methods were allowed and even admired in their race's view. "Master is truly amazing." The Celestial Maiden Guanghui expressed her sincere admiration. Ambushing a master of comparable strength was also considered part of one's skill and a symbol of power in this boundaryless race. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to rely on their pure appearance to gain others' trust. "So Master has already refined Zhao Buzi of the Panjiao race into a sacrifice?" she asked further. "Yes, right here." Wu Bai smiled, and with a wave of his hand, a stream of yellow spring water surged from his palm, which then condensed into the form of a practitioner. The appearance was of an elder, indistinguishable from a human, except for the long horns on his head curling and spiraling, looking strong and powerful. However, this Panjiao clan leader had already been refined into a sacrifice. His sanity wiped away, his expression terrifyingly fierce, like a maddening monster roaring incessantly. Xiang Beifei recognized this practitioner's appearance as someone he had conflicts with from the Panjiao people at the Land of Inheritance. Back then, Jiao Sky and Jiao Dihong had joined Flaming Six Wings Light Valley, wholeheartedly serving Flaming Six Wings of the Moon God race. Yet who could have imagined that the Panjiao race's own clan leader would be sacrificed to the Moon God race they sought favor with, transformed into a yellow spring monster, and not only that, the practitioners who knew the truth were all exterminated. Wu Bai spared the naive children of the Panjiao race so that they could be raised from a young age to believe in the Moon God as their deity, much like those humans being kept in reserves in Changpan Valley, treating their enemies as their saviors. A perfect sacrifice. The celestial maiden Guanghui appraised the Panjiao clan leader, praising, "Indeed, this old fellow's strength was on par with mine, making him a perfect offering. After killing him, my understanding of the immortal realm advanced further. I feel that in a little while, I could achieve the Tao with the aid of this powerful sacrifice." Wu Bai was very pleased with this sacrifice, having desired to offer up a mighty master to assist in his Tao attainment. The heavenly connection realm is about learning to communicate with one's heavenly Tao, but to achieve immortality, one must prove this Tao, an exceptionally arduous process. Wu Bai had spent hundreds of years without success, but now he had touched the threshold. "In any case, I need to kill a few more. These three are mine. I will use extremely cruel methods to torture them to death. The potential of humans is vast. Torturing one human as a sacrifice is equivalent to torturing dozens of tribe's people." Wu Bai refocused his gaze on the three humans, becoming more satisfied with them the longer he looked. The potential of the six wings was worth him taking action personally. Celestial Maiden Guanghui naturally couldn't agree more. She sneered internally. Even though Wu Bai hadn't discovered Xiang Beifei, killing these three first was enough to vent her anger. Truly troublesome. Xiang Beifei contemplated how to deal with Wu Bai. After being sacrificed to become a yellow spring monster, one typically retains their formidable cultivation, meaning the old clan leader of the Panjiao race was now a terrifying force. Regardless of how he attacked, the chances of resolving this creature were slim. Even relying on the candle dragons was unrealistic. Although it could interfere with all practitioners' perception, Wu Bai could still defend himself, making it difficult for Xiang Beifei to break through this defense. A different method must be devised. Meanwhile, Wu Bai waved his hand, and several cruel instruments of torture emerged from the blood pool. "So should I cook them slowly piece by piece, or chop them up?" Wu Bai mused aloud. Even when speaking of murder, his tone seemed so amiable. Yet in Uncle Liang and the others' ears, this sound was spine-chilling. Their hearts were in their throats. If Wu Bai intended to kill them, what could they do? They now had a slight understanding of the power levels of practitioners. Xiang Beifei had mentioned last time that some powerful meat-winged monsters were indeed god-level. Considering this creature had 1 foot already in the immortal realm, wouldn't his strength be that of a demigod? Can Beifei even handle someone of this strength? Uncle Liang was deeply unsettled but constantly reminded himself, "I must not give myself away. Even if I die, I cannot betray Beifei." Jiang Shan and Jiang Feng felt the same, pretending to be confused, striving to remain calm. They had chosen to cooperate with Xiang Beifei on this journey, fully prepared to face death. As long as they could delay and rescue the Zhuzhou elders whom they betrayed 10 years ago, it would count as atonement. As Wu Bai's instruments of torture neared the trio, Xiang Beifei knew he couldn't directly confront this creature now and had to divert its attention. He could use the cover of the Candle Dragon's eye to take Uncle Liang and the others away, but doing so would certainly alert the opposition, and rescuing Helian Zheng later would become impossible. Turning his gaze to the eggs, an idea suddenly flashed in his mind. He silently moved an egg he had previously prepared into one of the blood pools. This was a 12-winged egg, and it was a mature 12-winged egg. In Changpan Valley, A single 12-winged divine egg was enough to make Celestial Maiden Guanghui lose her composure, kneeling and unable to move. This indicated that, for the meat-winged monsters, their bloodline suppression was severe. Although uncertain whether it would work on Wu Bai, it was worth a try now. Xiang Beifei had crafted several 12-winged divine eggs long ago, waiting for this moment to use them. Buzz! A powerful kingly aura soared from the blood pool into the sky, the entire bone mountain filled with purple gas, the winds rising and clouds churning, unpredictable. As the divine egg's mighty pressure spread, golden light flickering continuously. The eggs in the blood pools on Bone Mountain were all terrified by this kingly aura, trembling involuntarily, with all the pool water even beginning to fizz and pop. This is... Wu Bai noticed this powerful aura too, stunned momentarily, turning his head, looking incredulously towards the source. At the summit of the Bone Mountain, the golden egg hovered in midair, majestic and domineering. This is a divine egg. Wu Bai's previously calm face could no longer maintain composure as he cried out in shock. His reaction wasn't much better than Guanghui Celestial Maiden's initial response. It was evident that the emergence of the 12-winged divine egg had shocked him too. When was there ever a divine egg in the hatching pool? Wu Bai almost lost his composure, not even having the time to torture Uncle Liang and the others, as his eyes were fixed on that divine egg. Logically, the eggs in the hatching pool are always predetermined. Before any human eggshell is brought here for slaughter and hatching, the egg's quality is tested. Yet, in thousands of years, a divine egg has never appeared. But for some unknown reason, a divine egg had emerged this time. Another divine egg. Another divine egg. Celestial Maiden Guanghui was daunted by this terrifying oppressive aura, involuntarily kneeling towards the divine egg. Even with her orifice transforming strength, the bloodline suppression was too profound. However, she quickly realized something was amiss. Damn it! It's that human's trick again. Now Celestial Maiden Guanghui was completely disordered. She thought, if this was a divine egg, but she had witnessed Xiang Beifei creating it. Which deity's egg is mass-produced like it's worthless? Yet, saying it's not a divine egg, however, the oppression made her almost unable to lift her head. Master! Don't be deceived. That is not a divine egg. Celestial Maiden Guanghui screamed within, wanting to tell Wu Bai the truth. But Xiang Beifei had her tightly controlled, leaving her no chance. Wu Bai was utterly astonished, although the bloodline of this divine egg suppressed him as well. However, his strength was so powerful that he wasn't so overwhelmed in front of this divine egg, clearly able to withstand the pressure. 12-winged divine egg. A 12-winged divine egg has emerged. When did the humans produce such high talent?
Wu Bai murmuret.
The divine egg flickered with dazzling brilliance in the air, illuminating Wu Bai's fair face. He stared at the divine egg for a long time, his gaze growing increasingly suspicious. Xiang Beifei immediately issued instructions to Celestial Maiden Guanghui. Celestial Maiden Guanghui struggled to speak. Master, a divine egg has appeared here, possibly caused by mutation. Master, what do you think should be done? Wu Bai stared at the divine egg's oppressive aura, rushed towards the divine egg, scrutinizing it up close, fully confirming that this indeed was a 12-winged quality divine egg. In the future, it had the potential to become the Eternal Night Demon King. Mutated divine egg. It turned out to be a mutated divine egg. It seems a new Eternal Night Demon King will be born. After all these years, how I wish I were a 12-winged back then. Unfortunately, the human eggshell I seized was disappointing. Envy filled Wu Bai's eyes. The potential of 12 wings was much stronger than his 8 wings. In the future, by merely normal cultivation, entering the immortal realm was a sure thing. He spent his life cultivating, striving to enter the immortal realm, continuously slaughtering different races to leverage their abilities to prove the Tao. But others were born with a golden key by comparison, making him utterly jealous. He now started blaming the human livestock on whom he had parasitized for being too useless. At this time, Celestial Maiden Guanghui suitably added, Master, The divine egg's presence has suppressed all the eggs in the blood pool. Those 3 humans seem to be having issues, feeling out of control. Uncle Liang and the other 2 were trembling all over, clutching their wrists, shivering, as if affected by the divine egg's aura. Back in Changpan Valley, when the divine egg appeared, Xiang Beifei hadn't transplanted the moon print onto them yet, so the divine egg's pressure was ineffective on them. But now that they had the moon print, it's akin to establishing a connection with the meat-winged monster. The divine egg's oppression could indeed affect them now. Wu Bai slightly furrowed his brows. Celestial Maiden Guanghui spoke again. Master, the divine egg's appearance was too sudden. Every egg here cannot resist the divine egg's oppression. I cannot bear this pressure, let alone them. Now, if we kill these 3, the eggs they produce might not meet expectations. Master, first take a look at the divine egg. I'll take the 3 out for now and kill them for you next time. How about that? Wu Bai pondered for a moment, nodding slightly. All right, take them out first. Keep them alive. Wu Bai's entire focus was on this divine egg, not in the mood to bother with the 3 humans of merely 6-wing quality. Clearly, a 12-wing potential egg was much more significant than 3 6-wings, not sparing any thought for the 3. Understood. Celestial Maiden Guanghui immediately led the 3 out. But just then, Wu Bai suddenly recalled something, shouting, "Wait a minute, I feel something's not quite right." Xiang Beifei paused in his thoughts, frowning slightly. Did this guy notice something? He had already taken out the candle dragon eye. If he was seen through, he would make it dark here immediately and then take Uncle Liang and the others away. No matter what, he wouldn't trade 3 lives for 1. Inside, Celestial Maiden Guanghui was very agitated. Master, you've finally noticed something wrong. Quickly stop that human. This is his plot. She couldn't wait to instill these words into Wu Bai's mind, urging him to stop everything quickly. Wu Bai's gaze wandered over the divine egg, saying, I've never heard of an egg mutating into a divine egg, and it's so sudden. Our historical records never mention this. That's right. Such a situation doesn't exist. Guanghui Heavenly Maiden roared internally. But this indeed carries the aura of a divine egg. This divine egg was also cultivated in an ordinary blood pool. If a mutation occurred, it logically shouldn't be the problem of the blood pool. Where did this egg come from? Wu Bai was very cautious. Xiaohe. Xiang Beifei immediately signaled Xiaohe, who understood and immediately dived into the blood pool, pawing at the eggs, making them wilt. Meanwhile, Wu Bai had already reached the blood pool that incubated the divine egg. He dipped his hand into the pool, furrowing his brows as he grabbed a heap of shriveled eggs. These eggs were only skin-like, as if they had been drained of their essence. Is this the phenomenon of devouring one's kind? Wu Bai was slightly taken aback. Master, could it be that this egg evolved into the quality of a divine egg by devouring the essence of its kind? Guanghui Heavenly Maiden said. I guess so. No wonder. Wu Bai nodded in surprise. He then went to check the eggs in the other blood pools and found that some of them had also become shriveled. More and more eggs were changing due to the appearance of the divine egg. Master, does this mean that if you devour this divine egg, it might also help you? Guanghui Heavenly Maiden said, lowering her voice. Upon hearing Guanghui Heavenly Maiden's words, Wu Bai's brows furrowed deeply. What are you trying to say? Wu Bai turned his head, staring at Guanghui Heavenly Maiden. I also hope that Master can have the potential of 12 wings. This divine egg hasn't hatched yet. If you absorb the essence of this divine egg, wouldn't you also become 12-winged? Guanghui Heavenly Maiden immediately said, Master, you are now also halfway into the immortal realm, but there's still a distance to it. This divine egg hasn't fully hatched. It's unknown whether absorbing it would help you successfully step into the immortal realm. Wu Bai squinted his eyes. You need to be cautious with your words. Some things shouldn't be spoken carelessly. He snorted coldly. Master, forgive me. Guanghui Heavenly Maiden quickly kowtowed but, unwilling, said, Master, I just feel that although your strength is clearly powerful, being limited by the quality of 8 wings is preventing you from entering the immortal realm. But once this egg hatches, in the future, it will step on Master's efforts over hundreds of years. I feel wronged on your behalf. This hit Wu Bai right in his heart, making him increasingly uncomfortable. Master, I remember the incubation pool has a tightly arranged formation that won't let any aura spread out to protect these eggs. Regarding the divine egg today, I, as a disciple, haven't seen anything. Everything will take Master as the main priority, and I won't divulge anything about Master's handling of this egg. As a disciple, I'll first take the 3 people outside to wait. Guanghui, Heavenly Maiden, like a perceptive disciple, turned to leave immediately with the 3 people, as if to let Wu Bai think for himself. This time, Wu Bai didn't stop her. Wu Bai stared at this divine egg, his mind filled with his disciple's words. Every sentence of those words struck his heart, preventing him from calming down. Indeed, why can't he step into the immortal realm after hundreds of years of hard cultivation, while this divine egg, just by being born, will be worshipped by the moon god race in the future? Moreover, for this divine egg, the entire race might seek sacrifices for this favored child of heaven, focusing all resources on the divine egg. If nothing unexpected happens, within 50 years, this divine egg will definitely step into the immortal realm. And although Wu Bai has killed a Panjiao race expert with strength similar to his, he knows very well he couldn't possibly reach the immortal realm within 50 years. By then, even Wu Bai would have to kneel down and salute this future divine egg. This made Wu Bai very dissatisfied. Now over 400 years old, having sacrificed themselves to the underworld, their lifespan is also limited without stepping into the immortal realm. Even if he now lives longer than many meat-winged monsters, he would at most live to 500 or 600 years old. Once lifespan ends, they return to the underworld. Frankly, meat-winged monsters are no different from the sacrifices they've slaughtered, ultimately turning into underworld creatures. Wu Bai is also unsure if he can step into the immortal realm before becoming an underworld creature. The power contained in the divine egg is terrifying. If I devour it, perhaps I could increase my wings from 8 to 12. Then I can live forever in this world. Wu Bai's eyes burned with even more intensity. 8 wings and 12 wings, they are 2 different concepts. If he integrates the potential of his 8 wings with the talent of 12 wings, could he surpass 12 wings and become the most powerful moon god in time? The Eternal Night Demon King hasn't appeared for a long time. Back then, he went to search for the remaining human race in Hanxia and was severely injured by Taoist Qingda from the human race. He still hasn't fully recovered. If he steps into the immortal realm, wouldn't his status replace that of the Eternal Night Demon King and make him the new leader of the moon gods in the future? Once this thought entered his mind, it immediately took root and grew like a malignant tumor within him, making it impossible for him to shake off the idea. Gradually, Wu Bai's face began to twist. Once, he had a kind and approachable expression, but now his demeanor turned extremely ferocious, with feathers falling off and various lumps emerging from his body. He had the intent to kill. Although the divine egg had a strong oppressive force, it was no match for him at all. Celestial Maiden Guanghui was right. There were no other kin here aware of the situation. As long as he took action, it wouldn't be exposed. Determined to awaken, Wu Bai grabbed the divine egg with intense eyes. Their race doesn't care about emotions. As long as it's beneficial to themselves, any means can be used. This naturally includes devouring their kin. The guard at the entrance of the incubation pool opened again. As soon as the 2 guards at the door turned their heads, they were subdued by Xiang Beifei in an instant, without even realizing how they got out. Uncle Liang and the other 2 finally returned to normal after leaving the oppressive force of the divine egg, looking at Xiang Beifei with uncertainty. Beifei, was that a demigod just now? Uncle Liang broke out in a cold sweat. Almost. Xiang Beifei nodded slightly. His strength was terrifying. Jiang Shan said, his heart still pounding. Now is not the time to talk. I need to act on my own next. It's been hard work for you all. Are you sure you don't need to rely on us anymore? If we can rescue Senior Hellion, We are willing to make sacrifices. Uncle Liang wiped the sweat off his forehead, showing his resolve. No need. It's enough to enter the incubation pool. Xiang Beifei took out the breath soil blocks he had been engraving these past few days, using the sleeves universe method to open up a movable space within them. If you need us to provide any cover, feel free to say so, Jiang Feng said. MMM. Xiang Beifei waved his hand and brought them into the breath soil block. After doing all this, he looked up and asked, "Where is the Jiuzhou human you're suppressing?" Celestial Maiden Guanghui said, "At the end of the blood pool. Take me there," Xiang Beifei said without hesitation. Celestial Maiden Guanghui had no way to resist Xiang Beifei's orders and could only turn around and walk down. "You're making me lure my master to devour that divine egg. If my master truly steps into the immortal realm, you won't have a good ending," she said coldly as she walked. "He has to be able to devour it in the first place." Xiang Beifei followed Celestial Maiden Guanghui calmly. Celestial Maiden Guanghui's heart skipped a beat, and she asked, "What do you mean?" "What? Forgotten so soon?" Xiang Beifei retorted. Celestial Maiden Guanghui carefully pondered over Xiang Beifei's words and suddenly realized something, looking at him with shock. You can't be. Seems like you're not that stupid." The divine egg created by Xiang Beifei wasn't something that could be easily devoured. Back in Chongpan Valley, he had shattered a divine egg in front of Celestial Maiden Guanghui. This divine egg contained his power. He even hoped that Wu Bai would devour and refine it. When the time came, with his power inside Wu Bai, he could decide when to trigger that power according to his desire. "By the way, maybe I should create more divine eggs for you all to devour." Xiang Beifei had no clear understanding of why he could create the divine egg. He could only speculate. The talent of the winged monster came from within every human, which meant those eggs deprived humans of their talents. As the Tao master, Xiang Beifei was above every human's talent and could manipulate the human Tao embryo, thereby indirectly toying with the quality of these eggs. Celestial Maiden Guanghui felt her heart grow cold. She spoke those words out of sheer helplessness and even prompted Wu Bai to devour that divine egg. What would happen if Xiang Beifei detonated that divine egg? Celestial Maiden Guanghui dared not think further. She was furious, yet she found herself unable to resist at all, forced to obediently lead Xiang Beifei to their destination. The incubation pool was within the Moon God Palace, floating above the abyss. Many powerful presences lurked within those buildings, and Xiang Beifei could sense over 100 heavenly connection experts. This number was truly terrifying. These Tao presences crossed in the air from time to time as if searching for something. If an ordinary cultivator entered here, they would definitely expose their target and be immediately locked onto and exterminated by over 100 heavenly connection experts. Fortunately, Xiang Beifei had strong orifice perception to protect himself. He could also sense 3 very profound powers hiding their presence deliberately. Though subtle, they were still perceived by Xiang Beifei. If Xiang Beifei wasn't mistaken, these 3 presences should belong to those 10-winged monsters. "Does your race have 3 10-winged experts?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Yes," Celestial Maiden Guanghui replied bitterly. "They are immortal realm experts." Xiang Beifei fell into thoughtful silence. He had thought Wu Bai was troublesome enough, yet he had not anticipated the existence of even more formidable beings. These 3 10-winged monsters were beyond his capability to handle. The difference in power between the immortal realm and the heavenly connection realm was something he had witnessed before. Celestial Maiden Guanghui led Xiang Beifei further down into the abyss. It was bottomless, pitch black. Even Xiang Beifei could not ascertain what lay below. However, they did not descend far. At about 400 to 500 meters, Celestial Maiden Guanghui stopped. At this point, a roaring sound emanated from below, like ocean waves crashing and roaring loudly. Whoosh! A terrifying giant tail suddenly swept up from the mist below, carrying a sharp aura that lashed toward them, like a blade carrying an indescribable dark energy, swiftly reaching them. Swish! Swish! Celestial Maiden Guanghui leaped up, dodging the tail's attack. The The tail missed its target and fell straight down, crashing into the mist below, shaking the air with a deafening thunder. "What is this?" Xiang Beifei asked in astonishment. The power of that tail was at least at the orifice transforming stage, and more than that, Xiang Beifei could faintly sense countless powerful presences darting around in the depths below, extremely agitated. Celestial Maiden Guanghui said coldly, "This is the underworld. Haven't you always wanted to come here to save someone?" After speaking, she suddenly showed a faint, strange smile. "And what else?" Xiang Beifei asked. "I don't know the specifics below, because it's beyond the scope of my cultivation level. The only thing I can tell you is that this is not a good place. Cultivators who foolishly try to barge in alone usually never return." Though Celestial Maiden Guanghui was of 8-wing quality, there were many winged monsters stronger than her here. "Where is Helian Zhang imprisoned?" Xiang Beifei asked again. "Cultivators who still have some use are imprisoned in the underworld hell. They undergo unimaginable suffering, with their minds teetering on the brink of insanity." After speaking, Celestial Maiden Guanghui said indifferently, "But if you ask me how to get to the underworld hell, then I'm powerless. Only elders at the heavenly connection realm have the qualification to enter and leave the underworld hell. The winged monsters are extremely cruel, showing no mercy in annihilating a race. Any cultivators who oppose them are slaughtered and sacrificed as underworld monsters. Cultivators who survive such conditions must hold some value. Helian Zhang was likely such a person. He knew the exact location of Zhuzhou but refused to reveal it. The winged monsters needed this information. "You should know that I cannot go down, right?" Celestial Maiden Guanghui scoffed. "A person without the right to appear in the underworld abyss, if discovered continuing downward, would certainly arouse suspicion." Xiang Beifei knew she wasn't lying. His abilities ensured this. That meant the rest of the path he must explore on his own. At this moment, Celestial Maiden Guanghui's thoughts were simple as well. Xiang Beifei couldn't take her further down, so he must leave her here. As long as she could stay, she would have a chance to escape Xiang Beifei's control. Xiang Beifei glanced at Celestial Maiden Guanghui and said indifferently, "Even if I don't take you, do you think you can survive?" Celestial Maiden Guanghui's expression paused. "You want to kill me? Don't forget, you need me. You overestimate yourself." Xiang Beifei said calmly, "But it doesn't matter. If I want to kill you, I don't need to do it myself." "What do you mean?" Celestial Maiden Guanghui frowned. Xiang Beifei glanced upward, then said, "You will understand." He no longer paid attention to Celestial Maiden Guanghui. His figure flickered and disappeared from the spot. Celestial Maiden Guanghui felt disdainful in her heart. Was this guy bluffing? On the territory of the Moon God Palace, who would come to kill a Celestial Maiden with 8-wing potential like her? She quickly discovered that she could actually move. When Xiang Beifei disappeared, he unexpectedly released his hold on her. Free! Celestial Maiden Guanghui felt a surge of joy in her heart. Since Xiang Beifei no longer controlled her, it meant she could return and report the whole story to the clan, letting the elders deal with this scoundrel. "You're doomed. When they catch you, I'll make sure to torture you to death." Celestial Maiden Guanghui smiled cruelly and immediately transformed into a beam of white light rushing towards the top of the abyss. She couldn't wait to announce the incident of Xiang Beifei breaking in. However, Celestial Maiden Guanghui hadn't flown far when suddenly, a powerful aura blocked her path. She was startled, thinking Xiang Beifei had come after her. But looking up, she found it was Wu Bai. "Master!" Celestial Maiden Guanghui let out a sigh of relief, feeling joyful in her heart. She found she could now speak the words she wanted to say, and immediately said hurriedly, "Master, I must explain what just happened." But Wu Bai looked at Celestial Maiden Guanghui with a complicated expression, suddenly reaching out and grabbing her by the neck. "Mas, Mas!" Celestial Maiden Guanghui's eyes widened in terror, unable to utter the word, "Master." She was extremely shocked, not understanding why her master suddenly grabbed her without a word, stopping her from speaking further. "Guanghui, I've shown you great care before. You're a smart child and know what certain things mean. Wu Bai lifted Celestial Maiden Guanghui up, bringing her before him, speaking with a tone that seemed a bit sympathetic. Celestial Maiden Guanghui looked at her master in horror, who now appeared as a meat-winged monster. She unexpectedly sensed a vague, killing intent from him. You are right. The divine egg is indeed crucial to me. It might be my opportunity to step into the immortal realm. You've also mentioned that you would definitely keep this matter a secret for me, haven't you? Wu Bai's expression turned fierce, cold to the extreme. Celestial Maiden Guanghui's eyes widened, looking at her master in disbelief, vaguely understanding something. Then please keep it a secret for me forever. A trickle of Yellow Springs water appeared in Wu Bai's hand, creeping towards Celestial Maiden Guanghui's neck, extending from her neck to her head, then spreading across her entire body, enveloping her completely. Master, listen to my explanation. It's not like that. Celestial Maiden Guanghui's heart roared in terror, but she could no longer speak because Wu Bai, to avoid further complications, directly deprived her of the ability to speak, even sealing the surroundings with powerful spiritual power. It was as if countless needles were piercing densely into Celestial Maiden Guanghui's body. Her body twisted in pain. Even if they were meat-winged monsters and could control the Yellow Springs monsters, the Yellow Springs water was also fatal to meat-winged monsters. The immense pain enveloped Celestial Maiden Guanghui. Every inch of her skin ripped apart, tore to pieces as if cut by 1,000 blades, then merged into the Yellow Springs water. Celestial Maiden Guanghui never dreamed that her killer would not be the human, Xiang Beifei, but her most respected master. She struggled painfully, but gradually, her consciousness was also swallowed by the Yellow Springs water, her eyes turning completely red, becoming a walking corpse in the Yellow Springs water. A celestial maiden with 8-wing potential died just like that. Died at the hands of Wu Bai. To die for the future new generation of the Eternal Night Demon King, you did not die in vain. At least in the future, you can always be by my side, fighting alongside me. Wu Bai looked at the Celestial Maiden Guanghui, now turned into a Yellow Springs monster, with an indifferent expression. The divine egg was too significant an issue. If the elders knew, they would never give Wu Bai the chance to devour this divine egg. Even knowing he had such a disrespectful thought towards it might result in his execution. But Wu Bai was too eager to pursue immortality, unwilling to give up this opportunity, and had to try devouring the divine egg to enhance his potential. The aura of the incubation pool would not leak, so when the divine egg emerged, besides him and Guanghui, no one in the Moon God race knew. But Wu Bai still felt uneasy. Celestial Maiden Guanghui, even as his disciple, even though she just promised to keep his secret, might still inadvertently spill the beans. Therefore, after Wu Bai decided to devour the God egg, he chased after them, searching for the aura of Celestial Maiden Guanghui, intending to kill her to silence her. The God egg is far more important than a mere disciple. Xiang Beifei watched all this from a short distance away, seemingly not surprised at all. The meat-winged monster never cared about emotions. This race only pursued powerful strength, resorting to any means, even ambushing and killing their allies. Killing a disciple was nothing if it meant obtaining stronger and eternal power. When Xiang Beifei noticed Wu Bai chasing after them earlier, he understood that such things would occur, so he chose to step back on his own. Celestial Maiden Guanghui probably died with great unwillingness. But this matter was irrelevant to Xiang Beifei. Whom Wu Bai wanted to kill was his own business. However, if he thought that by killing his own disciple, he could rely on the devouring of the God egg to become stronger, then he was too naive. After silencing Celestial Maiden Guanghui, Wu Bai began to search for the 3 humans. Strangely, the 3 humans with the potential for 6 wings were nowhere to be found. He stood still for a moment, thinking that mere humans with the potential for 6 wings were nothing compared to the God egg of 12-wing quality. The urgent matter now was to absorb that God egg quickly. With this thought, Wu Bai immediately erased all traces around and then vanished from the scene. With Wu Bai's status in the tribe and his strength, no one could discover what happened here. Seeing Wu Bai leave, Xiang Beifei then turned and headed into the abyss. The aura in the abyss became increasingly oppressive. The deeper he went, the more the air seemed to become viscous. Even though he could use spiritual power to protect himself, it felt as if some bizarre spiritual power was pressing against him. After descending about another 100 meters, Xiang Beifei finally saw the scene before him clearly. In front of him appeared to be an endless sea of yellow, a corrosive stench permeating continuously. The churning yellow water rose and fell, occasionally surging into waves hundreds of meters high, roaring loudly. Yellow Springs. This was the Yellow Springs. The power possessed by the meat-winged monster came from the Yellow Springs, but it could only control a small part of its water. Xiang Beifei had faced the meat-winged monster many times, such as Flaming Six Wings, who could unleash endless Yellow Springs water. However, compared to the Sea of Yellow Springs, it was like a minor spell before a grand sorcerer. This Sea of Yellow Springs was extremely volatile, with countless Yellow Springs creatures rolling and biting in the water. These creatures varied in size. The large ones were hundreds of meters long, their single sharp tails swinging like small mountains, crashing down with earth-shaking noise. The smaller Yellow Springs creatures were also exceptionally fierce, darting back and forth in the water, using their small size to frenziedly attack other Yellow Springs creatures, tearing large chunks of flesh from their massive bodies. Various kinds of Yellow Springs creatures were desperately attacking each other. Below Xiang Beifei was a terrifying giant lizard, opening its mouth dozens of meters wide, biting the head off a 100-meter-tall iron-armored rhinoceros. The bitten-off head of the iron-armored rhinoceros did not spray red blood but rather eerie Yellow Springs water. The iron-armored rhinoceros, whose head was bitten off, struggled furiously, but soon the surrounding Yellow Springs water reintegrated to form its head again. The iron-armored rhinoceros roared, using its massive black iron horn, dozens of meters long, to puncture a hole in the giant lizard's body, lifting it high from the Yellow Springs water, and then tearing the giant lizard apart. The torn-apart giant lizard fell back into the Yellow Springs water, and its body quickly reassembled, with the two sides resuming their fierce battle. Here, death did not exist. Those killed would immediately resurrect. Even in the sky, many flying Yellow Springs creatures were moving. Some four-winged giant eagles using their iron-like claws to grab a fierce giant shark into the air and shred it. The entire Yellow Springs Sea was like a chaotic battlefield, with innumerable Yellow Springs creatures slaughtering each other inside, turning the Yellow Springs water tumultuous. What a bizarre place! Even Xiang Beifei, witnessing such chaotic scenes for the first time, saw that these Yellow Springs creatures had no consciousness, only an endless desire for slaughter. Tranquility between them was impossible. Instinct drove them to kill anything moving around them. There was no order, no rules, no cooperation here, only endless chaos. Ahead, two Yellow Springs creatures cooperated to tear a third apart, only for the two to then attack each other. Xiang Beifei finally understood why Celestial Maiden Guanghui said that any cultivator entering here would never return. For these Yellow Springs creatures were terrifying, each erupting with almost heavenly connection-level strength. If a cultivator entered here, they would immediately be besieged and killed by these terrible Yellow Springs creatures. Thankfully, Xiang Beifei's self-protection capability was strong, able to shield against the detection of these Yellow Springs creatures, but he still had to be cautious as earlier, flying over the Yellow Springs, he nearly collided with two raging giant serpents. Woof woof! Xiaohe lay on Xiang Beifei's shoulder, astonished, pointing at a 50-meter-tall yellow-haired elephant. Beside that yellow-haired elephant, there was a Yellow Springs monster in human form. From his insane expression and physical traits, Xiang Beifei could almost be certain this was a human. Compared to other gigantic desolate beasts that reached tens to hundreds of meters, this human was indeed too small, almost akin to an ant. But the eerie part was that this mindless human seemed extremely fierce. They were also fighting and bizarrely powerful. A terrifying power seemed to lurk in their small bodies. When Xiang Beifei and Xiaohe noticed these humans, the other side had already grabbed the 50-meter-high yellow-haired elephant by the tail, swung it around several times in the air, and then slammed it out forcefully. Boom! A large group of Yellow Springs monsters that had been biting were instantly shattered, transforming into a puddle of Yellow Springs water. So strong! Xiang Beifei and Xiaohe exchanged glances. There was no doubt this human must have been sacrificed over, but Xiang Beifei hadn't anticipated that this human's cultivation was actually in the late Heavenly Connection phase. Has a human race cultivator in the Heavenly Connection realm been killed? Xiang Beifei pondered deeply. Yet quickly, Xiang Beifei realized this was not the case. As he searched through the overturning Yellow Springs, he occasionally witnessed a human battling Yellow Springs monsters, and each human fought one against 10, relying on their small bodies to tear apart other giant Yellow Springs monsters barehanded. He took a stroll over the Yellow Springs Sea and saw at least thousands of humans turned into Yellow Springs monsters, each one without exception possessing late Heavenly Connection cultivation. Not a single human with strength below the Heavenly Connection realm was seen. To say the meat-winged monster could kill so many Heavenly Connection realm humans, Xiang Beifei didn't believe it. The only explanation was that in this furious and chaotic Yellow Springs Sea, the most powerful Yellow Springs monsters weren't those gigantic desolate beasts, but humans. This is too bizarre. Every human sacrificed here reaches the Heavenly Connection realm. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but be surprised. No wonder the meat-winged monster always liked to kill humans as sacrifices. It turned out that once humans were cruelly slain and used as sacrifices, they gained extremely terrifying combat power, surpassing all desolate beast races. Yet these Yellow Springs monsters seemed only to possess such formidable power within this Yellow Springs water, because when the celestial maiden Guanghui, Flaming Six Wings, and other meat-winged monsters drove the Yellow Springs monsters to fight for them, those Yellow Springs monsters weren't as formidable, having strength only comparable to the meat-winged monster itself. So what exactly is going on with this Yellow Springs land? Xiang Beifei looked at this messy and bizarre place, genuinely stunned. It seemed like a terrifying hell of a battlefield, where endless slaughter kept playing out, a perpetual cycle that simply wouldn't stop. At this moment, Era suddenly interjected, asking, "Ow, ow, woof." Xiaohe's eyes also lit up, looking at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei paused slightly, unsure himself. Era inquired, with so many Yellow Springs monsters all at the Heavenly Connection realm, knowing that each Yellow Springs monster contains a crystal core similar to a beast pill, could extracting these crystal cores and refining them into spiritual power crystals be possible? If it were possible, then Xiang Beifei wouldn't have to worry about spiritual power crystals anymore, and Era could even snack daily on Heavenly Connection realm crystal cores. Good times. Era's suggestion seemed good to Xiang Beifei. These Huangquan monsters are all quite powerful. Apart from some weaker desolate beasts, most have Heavenly Connection level strength. From recent encounters with the meat-winged monster, it appears Xiaohe is capable of extracting crystal nuclei from these Huangquan monsters. Woof woof. Xiaohe eagerly rubbed her paws, asking if perhaps they should go down and catch one for a try. Xiang Beifei weighed the pros and cons briefly before shaking his head, saying, "No rush for now. These Huangquan monsters are busy battling here and won't run away. Let's locate Huangquan Hell first and then decide." Celestial Maiden Guanghui mentioned that the Eternal Night Demon King has been recuperating in Huangquan ever since being injured by Taoist Qingda. He could be hiding out in some corner here, and Xiang Beifei dared not alert him. Such powerful existences would be troublesome if they suddenly emerged. For now, Xiang Beifei plans to locate Helian Zheng, rescue him, and then cause commotion here. Even if he can't kill the Eternal Night Demon King, he intends to leave a lasting impression. Xiang Beifei continued flying forward, constantly dodging the powerful claws and massive tails extending from the battling Huangquan monsters. Flying above Huangquan is far from safe. Though the monsters might not see Xiang Beifei, the battle shockwaves are too strong for Xiang Beifei to ignore completely. He contemplated flying higher, but this place is bizarre. Flying too high renders Huangquan Sea invisible, yet visible spaces are intermittently beset by violent attacks from Huangquan monsters. Huangquan Sea is vast, obscenely huge. After flying for nearly half an hour, the sight still revealed endless slaughter, and he hadn't found Huangquan Hell or even its boundary. Could that place be underwater in Huangquan? Xiang Beifei couldn't help considering this possibility. Without any road signs, searching feels as aimless as finding a needle in a vast sea. Woof, woof, woof. Xiaohe inquired about visiting the depths of Huangquan, offering to punch all Huangquan monsters into submission. She boasts a skill set for dealing with them. I understand your prowess, but now is not the time for fighting. Xiang Beifei shook his head, surveying Huangquan Sea once more, pondering a moment before saying, "Let's try descending without engaging them." With some disappointment, Xiaohe tucked her paws away. Xiang Beifei circled around to find a relatively open area before beginning his descent. Calling it open is hardly accurate. The multitude of monsters in Huangquan resembles drops in a pot, leaving little room to land. He noticed a human clutching onto a saber-toothed tiger's tooth, tossing the massive beast away, clearing a large space, which prompted Xiang Beifei to quickly head there. Upon approaching, Xiang Beifei realized Huangquan not only contained yellow water, but also many mangled flesh pieces and shattered bones, floating and sinking with a stench despite spiritual power barriers, making him frown. Howl, howl, howl. Era remarked that the flesh and bone debris in Huangquan looked akin to a colossal pot of yellow bone broth. Like his skeleton race's yellow fire stew, only seasoning was missing to make it edible. You want to eat that too? You really have no standards. Xiang Beifei smirked slightly, then cautiously stepped into Huangquan water, enveloping himself in spiritual power. This corrosive liquid would reduce ordinary humans to blood upon contact, requiring great caution. However, just as he submerged half his body, the seawater violently churned below, followed by a terrifying wave that surged and thrust him out. Quickly stabilizing himself mid-air, Xiang Beifei turned to see a giant one-horned whale emerging from where he'd started descending, toppling him. The whale's goal wasn't him. Two tongue-like appendages emerged from its mouth, twisting like braided ropes as they grabbed and engulfed the human-like creature that defeated the saber-toothed tiger. But moments after swallowing the human, its belly exploded. The human forcibly tore apart the 50-plus meter whale from within. With red eyes, he let out a furious roar, grabbing the whale's disconnected spinal bones with each hand, swinging them into the air and smashing them together. Bang! Fragments collided with deafening noise, reducing the whale to shredded pieces. Bone scraps and Huangquan blood water cascaded like a waterfall. How ferocious! Xiang Beifei couldn't help but exclaim in awe, sidestepping to dodge the frightening Huangquan waters. This human-like creature is formidable, outwardly displaying power exceeding Xiang Beifei's. Even facing the flaming six wings previously didn't convey such overwhelming pressure. Without doubt, Xiang Beifei thought, if this Huangquan human-like creature fought with flaming six wings would likely be torn apart effortlessly. Luckily, these Huangquan monsters are only dominant here. Xiang Beifei breathed a sigh of relief, recalling that during the attack on Hanxia, the Eternal Night Demon King didn't unleash numerous Huangquan monsters, clearly restrained by concerns. Otherwise, such powerful forces would overwhelm Hanxia and Zhuzhou's defenses. He glanced again at that human monster, vaguely distinguishing that it was a robust, unfamiliar man. He had no idea where this human had come from or when he had died. Nevertheless, he didn't worry much about it, and instead found another spot to dive into the Huangquan water. Below the Huangquan water, everything was blurry, but the chaos inside was just as intense as above. Countless massive desolate beasts were fighting each other, with no place left untouched by battles. Xiang Beifei dodged a 10-meter-long swordfish's stinger and continued swimming downward. Below, it was impossible to discern the scenery with his eyes. He relied on his orifice perception. As long as he spread out his orifice perception, the surroundings were still barely discernible. Because of his Taoist body, his orifice perception was very special. Even when swimming in water, it wouldn't cause anomalies, since the water was already chaotic, and his disturbance was insignificant. Despite swimming in Huangquan for a long time and constantly avoiding the powerful underwater Huangquan monsters, he still found nothing. How do I even search here? Xiang Beifei felt a bit distressed, then dodged something unknown with a blood-red mouth, continuing to survey his surroundings. He wanted to extract the Yu Divine Steel to stabilize this Huangquan Sea area, then search carefully for the location of the Huangquan Hell. But he held back, knowing that if he drew out the Eternal Night Demon King, rescuing people would be even harder. However, without finding a way, continuing blindly like this was just a waste of time. At this moment, Xiang Beifei suddenly perceived something. His spirit invigorated. It was breath soil. Just days ago, while dealing with those meat-winged monsters, he had killed quite a few. After being killed, the meat-winged monsters didn't vanish but transformed into a pool of Huangquan water. According to Carrie, after their death, their bodies returned to Huangquan, because they are a race sacrificed to Huangquan. At the time, to track the source of the netherworld, Xiang Beifei deliberately scattered some breath soil, allowing it to integrate into the meat-winged monster's corpse water, letting these corpse waters carry away the breath soil particles. For a while, Xiang Beifei hadn't sensed the breath soil, but now he suddenly did. Woof woof! Xiaohei sensed it too, his eyes lighting up, looking in the direction to the left. But a gigantic claw was swiping their way from the left, and they quickly dodged. Let's go this way. In the Huangquan water, Xiang Beifei was like a nimble fish, continuously weaving through the battling Huangquan monsters. But no matter how agile, there are times one gets overturned. A massive fish fin suddenly appeared, flipping them over. This place was filled with battles of heavenly connection-level strength, and in such a battleground, one couldn't act yet stay uninvolved. Even Xiang Beifei couldn't manage completely. He hurriedly stabilized himself, yet in a split second, a giant mouth swallowed him whole. Xiang Beifei didn't even know what desolate beast had devoured him. He only sensed rows of sharp teeth slicing towards him from above. Those teeth were terrifying, like guillotines more than 10 meters long, filling the entire upper palate of the mouth, threatening to grind Xiang Beifei into pieces. Damn eerie! Xiang Beifei cursed inwardly. The monster's mouth was packed so tightly with teeth that there was no room for evasion. Prey caught in such a densely toothed mouth would be gnawed into minced meat almost instantly. This time, escape was impossible. The strength of these Huangquan monsters was no joke. Dodging was futile, action was necessary. Thunk! Xiaohei quickly smashed the brick together, the brick immediately radiating golden formations, which spread along the teeth and immobilized the giant mouth of the Huangquan monster. The monster's teeth halted mid-air, unable to bite further. Woof woof! Xiaohei angrily wanted to rush over and deal with these Huangquan monsters. But just then, Xiang Beifei noticed something was wrong. He discovered an alarming and powerful divine sense suddenly awakening, surging towards them. Xiaohei! Retract the brick quickly! Xiang Beifei shouted in a low voice, immediately flipping and darting out of the Huangquan monster's mouth, wrapping himself securely with orifice perception. At this moment, the powerful divine sense landed on the Huangquan monster, which had just regained movement. But before it could go mad again, a bizarre force bound it. This power was like a vast and mighty mountain, suppressing the Huangquan monster. Even compared to this force, a Huangquan monster at the heavenly connection level was no match. Ha! A low voice emanated from within Huangquan, oppressive and silencing all the Huangquan monsters instantly. Terrified, they stopped their battling, starting to tremble in place. To make so many powerful Huangquan monsters shudder, you can imagine how terrifying the owner of that voice must be. Xiang Beifei already knew who this figure was. The Eternal Night Demon King. He hadn't expected the Eternal Night Demon King's senses to be so keen. It must be known he had just exerted a bit of power with the brick, and even while inside the mouth of a Huangquan monster, he hadn't anticipated that such a small move would instantly alert the Eternal Night Demon King. Such powerful perception. Xiang Beifei's previous caution paid off. Throughout this Huangquan Sea area, he hadn't interfered with the Huangquan monster's battles, nor had he acted, constantly evading. Logically, in this vast boundless Huangquan Sea, with thousands of Huangquan monsters engaged in fierce combat, the battlefield was a boiling pot, and here Xiang Beifei was as insignificant as a speck in the ocean. Yet he was still detected. Too eerie. Strange. How can there be an external force? The Eternal Night Demon King's power scrutinized the Huangquan monster thoroughly, but still found no anomaly. Then that force suddenly strengthened. Boom! The 100-meter-long Huangquan monster, under that force, was crushed into Huangquan blood water in an instant. Yet the Eternal Night Demon King still found no anomaly. Was I mistaken? The voice seemed to be talking to itself, and then that powerful force began targeting the surroundings, quickly sweeping over all the monster divine envoys, almost as if with a single thought. Boom! 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 The seabed exploded like a blast, all the Huangquan monsters being crushed to bits, bursting into fragmented blood and bones. The impact from this blood water was immensely strong, knocking Xiang Beifei away. Xiang Beifei held onto his orifice perception tightly, offering no resistance nor autonomous movement, letting the shockwaves sweep him, disguising himself as a piece of a Huangquan monster's bone, relying on luck to see where it took him. Because if he slightly used any force to resist, he would likely be instantly detected by the Eternal Night Demon King. Facing such a powerful opponent, something would definitely go wrong. He was pushed deeper into the seabed, without knowing where he was taken. Everything around was pitch black, his body burning in pain, his bones nearly collapsing. Fortunately, his recovery ability and physical resilience were strong enough. If other Heavenly Connection practitioners were hit by such an impact, they would have been killed instantly. About a quarter of an hour later, the Eternal Night Demon King seemed to stop his search, likely suspecting he was mistaken, considering that no other sages could infiltrate here. His power gradually retracted. As the power dissipated, those Huangquan monsters crushed into fragmented bones and blood gradually reassembled their bodies. Without absolute power suppression, these Huangquan monsters roared again, resuming their furious battles. Xiang Beifei lay still in the water for another half an hour, confirming there was no danger before slowly beginning to move his body, gradually shaking off the pain. Is this the power of the Eternal Night Demon King? Xiang Beifei frowned. The Eternal Night Demon King was incredibly powerful. In his view, even more so than 3,000 years ago, during the battle against Taoist Qingyang in Hanxia. This is quite troubling. The Eternal Night Demon King clearly controls this Huangquan Sea area and all the Huangquan monsters. Everything here operates under Huangquan's power, extremely oppressive. Even though Xiang Beifei's crafted orifice perception could conceal itself from the Eternal Night Demon King's detection, any external force could be noticed by him. So how exactly is he going to rescue Helion without being detected? The Eternal Night Demon King didn't even appear just now. It was merely a force that brought such immense oppression to Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei knew the risk of rescue was great, but he had to try. Although he didn't know Helion Zheng, this person was, after all, one of the two elders who once lived unrestrainedly, and he had some connections with Xiang Tianqing. Xiang Beifei had to find a way to rescue this person. Perhaps he would learn why Xiang Tianqing left in the first place. At this moment, all the Huangquan monsters had fully recovered and began to fight once more. These Huangquan monsters had no consciousness of their own, and the moment the Eternal Night Demon King's oppression ceased, they resumed tearing each other apart. Here, it seemed that mutual slaughter was their instinct. After adjusting himself, Xiang Beifei headed in the direction sensed by the breath soil. The perception attached to the fluid of the meat-winged monster's corpse flickered intermittently, suggesting a great distance. He initially planned to advance from the air, but Huangquan had a peculiar suppressive aura. Upon trying, he found that leaving the breath soil rendered him unable to sense it, so he had to continue progressing through the stinking Huangquan. With the previous encounters, he was much more cautious this time, trying to use the waves and currents caused by the Huangquan monsters fighting to move forward while avoiding potential attacks. After diving through the perilous Huangquan for 2 to 3 hours, during which he was battered into confusion by numerous Huangquan monsters, he was fuming, and even Xiaohe felt quite frustrated. If not for the concern about the Eternal Night Demon King, it would have long flown over to give those Huangquan monsters a thorough lesson. Fortunately, the perception of breath soil grew increasingly intense, and Xiang Beifei could even start manipulating the breath soil. The combat ripples in this area were also becoming stronger. Strangely, Xiang Beifei could no longer see those towering 100-meter-tall Huangquan monsters. In this area, the fighters were almost entirely various transformed monsters of other races capable of cultivation and possessing high intelligence. Among them, the number of human-transformed Huangquan monsters was the greatest, and they were the most powerful. These human combats had reached the extent of overturning mountains and seas. A single punch sent waves thousands of meters high crashing and rolling across the seas. The waves were mixed with blood, and bone debris fell down from above towards Xiang Beifei, as if the sky was collapsing, rumbling with terrifying power. I should be near the place now. Xiang Beifei dodged those massive waves capable of crushing a mountain peak and watched the two humans fighting bare-chested at the battle's core, pondering involuntarily. From their appearances, these two human monsters could be discerned as an old man and a young one, with the old man having a beard, while the young one looked like a teenager. Their eyes were bloodshot, like wild beasts in frenzy, leaving no mercy during their brawl, blow after blow hitting. The younger one appeared much more agile, landing a punch that blew the other's head apart. Yet, very soon, the old man restored himself and tore the young one apart from the waist, breaking his limbs and throwing them aside. Almost immediately, a third human monster charged in to fight with the old one. Xiang Beifei was trying to find an opportunity to pass through this battlefield. As the coverage was enormous, the violent power influenced tens of kilometers around, with towering waves and fierce noises, making it difficult to traverse safely. At this moment, the perception of breath soil became ever more intense. But right then, one of the breath soils surprisingly started moving toward him. Eh? Xiang Beifei was quite surprised. He looked in the direction of the sensation, and soon a shadow appeared before his eyes. Upon closer inspection, it was a meat-winged monster. The breath soil was inside this meat-winged monster, but bizarrely, this meat-winged monster was roaring and appeared furious, as its head was grabbed by a human, and its lower half was ripped apart. Just as it was about to reassemble, it was torn again. This meat-winged monster was being violently beaten by that human. Once ferocious outside, a meat-winged monster, after death, found itself humiliated by the lowly livestock they once scorned, like a vulnerable little chick having its wings torn apart. Both sides were frenzied, mindless monsters, but the humans held the upper hand over the meat-winged monsters. The meat-winged monsters were no match for the humans. Truly, what goes around comes around. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but shake his head. Although the meat-winged monsters had sacrificed themselves to Huangquan, their posthumous situation was far from glorious. No matter how dazzling in life, in death, they were just monsters in Huangquan. When alive, humans from Changpan Valley were slaughtered like livestock, while the meat-winged monsters could torture and enslave them loftily. Yet the so-called moon gods, with their outward elegance, fared no better in death, becoming nothing more than toys for the humans they once looked down upon, continuously dismantled and ravaged. He couldn't tell if this was joy or sorrow. Humans weren't a match for these meat-winged monsters in life, but they became stronger after death, though they lost their consciousness, unable to perceive any of it. However, there was a breath soil inside this meat-winged monster's head, implying it was killed in Changpan Valley when he did it. What did its presence here signify? If even the meat-winged monsters were just monsters in Huangquan, then Xiang Beifei's use of the breath soil to track would be entirely meaningless. However, just as he was pondering, a yellow light suddenly appeared in the sky above the yellow springs, stretching out like a tentacle to pull the meat-winged monster being bitten by humans over to safety, freeing it from the ravages of the human monsters. That light was obviously there to retrieve the meat-winged monster, and when a human monster tried to pursue, it was directly shattered by the light. Xiang Beifei immediately chased after the direction of the yellow light. He didn't chase very far, only about a mile, before he saw a small island, a floating island amidst the boundless yellow springs. Xiang Beifei had been searching here for many hours, seeing nothing but the Yellow Springs Sea and Yellow Springs monsters. So finally spotting an island felt like discovering a new world and was truly exhilarating. This island looked very strange, covered with jagged rocks and densely populated with peculiar trees, all of which were black, as if it were an island shrouded in a black forest. The human race Yellow Springs monsters were still battling 100 meters away from the island, but strangely, the aftermath of their tumultuous fight did not sweep over the island. It was as if an invisible force was protecting it. After a hard effort, Xiang Beifei managed to pass through the battlefield and approach the island, only to find that the area around it was filled with meat-winged monsters. But these meat-winged monsters were not as frenzied as the ones outside the island. In fact, they seemed very calm, their eyes somewhat dull and numb, appearing like puppets just standing there like wooden dolls. On the island stood a burly middle-aged man. This middle-aged man wore white clothes, immaculate, resembling an ancient Confucian scholar, but he had 10 wings on his back. 10-winged. Xiang Beifei furrowed his brows. It was indeed 10-winged, though the middle-aged man's pressure wasn't as strong as the Eternal Night Demon King's. Xiang Beifei could still faintly sense that this guy had the power of the immortal realm. At this moment, another woman gracefully flew over from the island's black forest, her beauty like a celestial being, totally out of place with the stench of the Yellow Springs Sea region. In such a malicious place, such a wonderful woman did not belong. Yet she also had 10 wings, 2 10-winged beings. They're both in the immortal realm. Xiang Beifei was very cautious. To be honest, so far, the human race of the Juzhou continent indeed couldn't compare to the meat-winged monster race in strength. Not even the continent's recognized top expert, Elder Luo, who was only in the late stage of heavenly connection. Elder Luo's combat power was strong, beyond conventional assessment, but if he faced this 10-winged meat-winged monster, he would likely suffer. Back then, it was thanks to Grandpa. If Taoist Qingda hadn't gone alone to block and repel the Eternal Night Demon King, Zhuzhou would have faced great danger. "Ji, has another one died?" the woman asked. Ji was the man's name. Xiang Beifei had heard from the celestial maiden Guanghui that this guy was called Ji Shi. It was rare to see him in the Moon God Palace, and even the celestial maiden Guanghui wasn't privy to much information about him. And this woman should be Zhuo Shi. Among the 3 10-winged moon gods mentioned by celestial maiden Guanghui, the other named Duo Shi was also likely nearby. Yes, another one. Probably just died outside and returned to the Yellow Springs. Ji Shi had just saved the meat-winged monster that had been tormented by the human monsters, and he was scrutinizing this meat-winged monster with furrowed brows. Lately, our tribe members have been dying a bit too often. In less than a month, it's reached 152. Zhuo Shi seemed to be contemplating this matter as well. For their tribe members to die while on missions in the barren land was inevitable. This race wasn't invincible, and if Meridian Opening and God Refining Phase meat-winged monsters accidentally provoked High Realm cultivators in Orifice Transforming and Heavenly Connection stages, being killed was quite normal. So the deaths of meat-winged monsters usually didn't attract much attention. This race didn't care much for emotions. A dead member was considered a waste, unworthy of pity. In any case, they would return to the Yellow Springs after death, becoming puppet tools to guard the area, essentially a form of recycling. As for the number of tribe members, with so many eggshells nurtured, there was no worry of replenishment. However, the recent high death toll of meat-winged monsters was unexpected, almost as if they were being slaughtered, with tribe members continually returning to the Yellow Springs, causing some puzzlement among the guiding messengers. Logically, we're rarely slaughtered by other races. Everyone should be very careful, Ji Shi said. The moon god race's facade of virtuous sanctity glittered with hopeful brilliance, easily gaining the trust of other races. Often, they could unexpectedly slaughter other races, and it was rare for their own race to be slaughtered. So, there's something suspicious when things are out of the ordinary. Unfortunately, these returning tribe members can't speak. Did you extract the memory yet? What mission were they on when the accident occurred? Zhuo Shi inquired. Let me check this one's memory. He again grasped the head of the earlier meat-winged monster, applying a bit of force, until with a crack, the head burst apart, with yellow brain matter splattering into the air. Ji extended a finger to dab some brain matter, tasting it somewhat. Then he furrowed his brows. It's strange. There's no memory taste. I don't even know who killed this fellow. Ji shook his head. Zhuoxi also dipped her delicate white finger in the jumbled brain matter, her gaze becoming intense after some time. How odd. We should be able to taste the memories of any tribe member after death. She again scooped some more and put it in her mouth, closing her eyes to savor it as if it were some delicacy, leaving her with endless aftertaste. If those who revered the moon god saw this scene, they'd surely be shocked. This peerless celestial maiden was actually eating the brain matter of meat-winged monsters, doing something completely incongruent with her elegant appearance. There are already over 100 whose memories can't be discerned. We must investigate this matter clearly, Ji said. Should we report it to the Divine Lord? Zhuoxi asked. There's no need to bother the Divine Lord with such a trivial matter. After all, they were also experts in the immortal realm, and bothering the Eternal Night Demon King for such a minor issue would make them seem incompetent. They needed to investigate themselves to match their status. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly echoed abruptly. What's troubling you? This voice was unmistakably the Eternal Night Demon King's. Ji and Zhuoxi both changed expressions and quickly knelt down, respectfully saying, Greetings to the Divine Lord. Though they were also immortal realm, the Eternal Night Demon King's power was far superior to theirs. He was an absolute 12-winged ruler of the moon god race, and even the 10-winged had to submit. Just now, you mentioned these tribe members have no memory. What's going on? The Eternal Night Demon King's presence wasn't even visible, but his mere voice carried immense pressure. Ji and Zhuoxi exchanged glances and said, Reporting to the Divine Lord, over the past month, more than 100 tribe members have died, and we can't determine from their memories how they died. Oh! A powerful pressure swept over the recently exploded-headed meat-winged monster, covering it in a yellow mist. He didn't need to use such rudimentary methods as tasting brains, opting for a direct soul search instead. The atmosphere fell into thoughtfulness for a time, with Ji and Zhuoxi not daring to speak, quietly awaiting the Eternal Night Demon King's words. Indeed, there's no memory. What about the others? The Eternal Night Demon King inquired. They're over there. Ji waved his hand. A yellow light illuminated, and over 100 dazed-looking meat-winged monsters were all drawn over. Bang! 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 All these tool-like meat-winged monsters exploded, resembling a spectacular fireworks display. The Eternal Night Demon King was searching the memories of these meat-winged monsters, with Ji and Zhuoxi anxiously waiting in silence. After a while, the Eternal Night Demon King finally spoke. Changpan Valley. The Eternal Night Demon King's voice was cold and sinister. Changpan Valley? Ji and Zhuoxi paused slightly, not quite understanding the words of the Eternal Night Demon King. Lord Divine Lord, what's wrong with Changpan Valley? Zhuoxi asked in confusion. They have always been thoroughly familiar with the situation in Changpan Valley, a place where humans are kept in captivity, their lives confined there, and constantly watched by the moon pupil in the sky, leaving no movement unnoticed. Ji extended a finger, a white glow emanating from the fingertip, gradually spreading to form a white ring of light. Through this ring, the scene of Changpan Valley appeared before their eyes. This was the perspective of the moon pupil. Through the 2 moons in the sky, every corner of the moon god race's territory could be monitored. Usually, members of the tribe would patrol the territory through the moon pupil to ensure everything was fine. At the moment, harmony reigned in Changpan Valley. Women washed clothes and cooked meals, handling the meat brought back from hunting. Children ran around the valley, happily comparing their moon prints on their wrists. 2 little boys even argued incessantly over whose moon print was prettier and who was more favored by the Divine Lord. As for the teenagers of age and those adult men who were not out hunting, they were earnestly practicing boxing in the martial training field. Everything in Changpan Valley was completely normal. The humans of Changpan Valley are earnestly training, striving to expand the moon prints on their arms, cultivating offspring for us. There should be nothing wrong, right? Ji Shi confirmed several times before speaking. The power of the eternal night demon king also fell upon the light ring, scoffing coldly. These few tribe members that died had never offered an offering. Never offered an offering? Ji Shi was startled and said, Lord Divine Lord means. These tribe members are not yet of age, but that's not right. These bodies are adults. Could it be? Those who were killed were the batch participating in this year's coming-of-age ceremony. The moon god race had thousands of members, and Ji Shi and Zhuo Shi couldn't possibly know every tribe member. So identifying deceased members by appearance was impractical. It was usually determined by consuming brain pulp memory to identify who killed them. Yet the power of the Eternal Night Demon King was evidently superior to theirs, capable of determining who had never offered an offering. Those members who had never offered offerings were basically all minors. This batch was just adults. Given the current timing, those who hadn't offered and were killed could only be those participating in the coming-of-age ceremony. How is that possible? Those participating in the coming-of-age ceremony, even if their strength was poor, couldn't possibly be slaughtered by humans so thoroughly. Zhuo Shi still found it hard to believe this fact. If 1 or 2 were killed, even 7 or 8 or a dozen, she wouldn't have cared, let alone felt pity for these tribe members. To be counterattacked and killed by these feeble humans of Changpan Valley. These tribe members were a disgrace even if alive. But being slaughtered over 150, the situation was very unusual. Something is off in Changpan Valley, said the Eternal Night Demon King. Something off. Zhuo Shi and Ji Shi looked at the situation in Changpan Valley again. But everything was perfectly normal, exactly as they knew Changpan Valley to be. They observed for a long time and could not find anything out of place. After these humans held a funeral under my statue, the moon god flower on the mountain should have absorbed the humans' mournful emotions and grown an inch. However, the moon god flower here has no growth. The moon god flower? Ji Shi and Zhuo Shi were startled. Only then did they realize. Every year, over 1,000 hunters from the human race attend the Mengdong hunt. And some of these hunters are slaughtered to provide offerings for those participating in the coming-of-age ceremony to obtain the power of the Yellow Spring. In previous years, once there were excessive casualties in Changpan Valley, a funeral would be held to mourn their kin, because those slaughtered humans were devoured by the Yellow Spring. Leaving no bodies, the people of Changpan Valley would gather at the Divine Lord's statue on the mountain for a communal mourning, laying out various sacrificial tools, placing the head of pigs, cattle, and sheep as offerings in the altar. And the moon god flower growing around the statue is a very special plant that specifically absorbs sorrowful emotions to grow, but it doesn't grow too much at once. Even those humans weren't aware of this. Ji Shi and Zhuo Shi silently cursed their carelessness. They had overlooked this matter. There were indeed traces of a funeral mourning in Changpan Valley, but the moon god flower did not grow. It's my negligence. I will investigate this matter immediately, said Ji Shi. I will go too, added Zhuo Shi. There's no need. Ji can go alone. Zhuo, go and patrol this Yellow Spring Sea region with DUI. The voice of the Eternal Night Demon King rang out again. Zhuo Shi was puzzled. Patrol the Yellow Spring Sea region? Perhaps it's my illusion, but I feel something has intruded here, said the Eternal Night Demon King. How could something intrude here? This is the Yellow Spring, questioned Zhuo Shi doubtful. The Yellow Spring is extremely perilous. Without a certain level of strength, the strong Yellow Spring creatures alone were enough to prevent any cultivator from entering. Are you questioning me? The Eternal Night Demon King said coldly. Zhuo Shi immediately bowed her head in panic. I wouldn't dare. I will comply immediately. Quickly, Ji Shi and Zhuo Shi set off, acting separately, leaving only the strong force of the Eternal Night Demon King wandering around the island's edge, seemingly searching for something. After a while, he snorted coldly, and suddenly a fierce wind whipped up around the island, causing the Yellow Spring seawater to roar loudly, then rising to form a colossal wall of waves, engulfing the entire island as if sealing it in.